I would like to welcome everyone today. I'm President Emily Stevens, and I call this work session of August 5th, 2026 to order. The time is 4 o'clock. Let's start with 1.01, flag salute. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you. Please stand. Hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before I open item 1.02, is there anyone who did not get a chance to fill out a public speaker card? It is a yellow card. Anybody going once, going twice? Okay. Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen will make the motion to approve the agenda.
I would like to make a motion to approve today's agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Cavazos.
I will second that motion.
All right, let's vote. Trustee Henry?
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to 2.01. Again, does anybody need to fill out a public speaker card? I don't see any. Okay. 2.01, approval of the minutes. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we approve the minutes for the work session meeting of June 3rd, 2026.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Trustee Dominguez.
Yes, I'd like to second the motion.
Thank you. Let's vote. Trustee Henry?
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Biasotti?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Okay, with that, we move on to 2.02. This is not an action item. It is a presentation on School Traffic Safety Working Group final report.
Good evening, Madam President, trustees, and Superintendent Ebert. I am Kirsten Sear, Chief Community Engagement Officer, and today I am joined by Andrew Bennett, who is the Director of the Clark County Office of Traffic Safety. Mr. Bennett's office oversaw and assisted in much of the work done by the School Traffic Safety Working Group. The School Traffic Safety Working Group is a first-of-its-kind, multi-jurisdictional regional effort uniting Southern Nevada municipalities, school districts, transportation providers, and public safety partners. We are excited to hear the report from Mr. Bennett tonight, and I will hand it over to him.
Thank you, Kirsten. As she said, my name is Andrew Bennett. I have the privilege of serving as the Director of the Clark County Office of Traffic Safety at Clark County. This is my 4th year at the county and my 17th year in traffic safety, and I'm a proud graduate of Coronado High School. Madam President, members of the board, trustee or Superintendent Ebert, thank you for the opportunity to present about a year's worth of work ensuring that we can course correct the number of students that are hit on their way to or from school. This has been a long journey. It started pretty much 5 years ago when we had a reporter ask how many kids are hit on the way to or from school. At the time I worked for the state police, so I thought that would have been a rather simple question to answer. Little did I know it was going to take about 4 years to answer that question. I want to start by thanking so many people that were part of this report, and we'll get into the details, but CCSD was an incredible partner in this conversation. The conversation started after Mackenzie Scott was killed by an impaired driver at Arborview High School. Chief Blackeye and Lieutenant Campbell from CCSD PD approached me shortly after that. Through conversations with superintendent and her deputies, we were able to outline what a regional effort would look like to ensure that this just wasn't an enforcement issue or an engineering issue, but we could approach it in all different ways. And so my hope today is to present you the problem and then also what our recommendations are and the solutions that we expect to implement as we move forward. We truly do believe that this is a first-of-its-kind initiative, and one of the reasons that I appreciate the work that this group did was because it wasn't just one individual. I have the privilege of being before you today, but it represents the work of 90 people over a year to get to this point. It's so important when we talk about the region and this effort. I have the privilege of representing a regional office at the county, ensuring that everybody in between Mesquite and Laughlin and everywhere in between is safe on their way to or from school or work or home. And so when we talk about regional alignment, it was important that it didn't matter if a student lived north or south of Sahara, north or south of St. Rose, that they received the same benefit on their way to or from school. And so I appreciate the regional alignment. It was also important that we had a report that could be actionable, that we could take direct action on the problem that we identify. One of the early wins that we had with this report was we had the incredible opportunity to go to special session. And the first time in the history of the state of Nevada, traffic safety was elevated to the highest level that the Constitution allows, and that's a conversation during special session. We passed with the great support of CCSD, the county, the boards, and the region. We were able to pass AB 6 that helped us course correct some of the issues that we were having in our school zones. A lot of folks might not realize that up until 1989, school zones were 24/7, 365 days a year, and we course corrected to when children were present. We did not have something as simple as local control over the school zone flashers, and that's something that I'm proud to present that we now have full control over. Fines are actually double in school zones legally, which is something that we believe that will help on the enforcement and the adjudication issues, as well as we have the ability now to make the school zones the length as long as we want based off of local needs as well. And so we're incredibly proud to have that success with AB 6. And then we wanted to align everything that we did with a true safety focus as we approached our recommendations. The presentation that I'm about to give you now is just an overview of the full report. The full report is in the backup. I just have about 10 to 11 slides that we'll go through rather quick, but it's pretty much broken into those two sections of number one, the data that we identified, and then the recommendations that we want to implement. So this first slide shows the data. It was important again to show the education landscape continues to evolve, and it was important that we incorporated all students under the age of 18 or below in this data. And so our data definition is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on CCSD school days under the age of 18 outside of a car. And so that's going to be any student who's walking, riding a bike, on a scooter, et cetera, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on CCSD school days is the data that's represented in the slides before you. You can see the crash mode by jurisdiction, the crashes by travel mode. You can see that e-scooters are the number one device that's involved in these types of crashes, followed by pedestrians, traditional bicyclists, and then e-bikes, and then others. On this next slide on the top left, we have the injury severity broken out by suspected minor, claimed no injury reported, suspected serious, and unfortunately, we did experience 4 fatalities last school year, which is truly unacceptable. I cannot thank Lieutenant Campbell from CCSD PD enough on working with us. We went from hand collecting this data to automating it with the state support as well, with the Office of Traffic Safety at the state level, to the point where we were receiving this data pretty much every night, which is an incredible benefit when we're trying to come up with policy and recommendations. On the top right, you have the data broken out by age, with largely the crashes involving 12-year-olds to 17-year-olds. Time of day shouldn't be surprising, largely aligned with arrivals and dismissals. And the reason that we went to 6 p.m. I think is obvious to you all, is we wanted to ensure that we were capturing any students that were leaving activities. I coached marching band in this district for a long time, and those kids are leaving well past 6, but we thought that 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. was a fair representation to try to understand the problem. And then we have crashes broken out by day. To speak to the regional coalition that we built, I'm incredibly proud that we had over 90 members broken out from 15 partner agencies in all 6 jurisdictions. I think it's rare when we have the opportunity to have the county and all the cities in the same room focused on the same mission, and I'm incredibly proud and thankful for all those government agencies joining us. Of course, CCSD and the State Public Charter School Authority. We had state, local, and regional law enforcement with us, as well as all of the road owners in Southern Nevada, It's important to note that the majority of the arterials are not owned by the local municipalities and that they're still owned by the state, so it was important to have them a part of the conversation, as well as all of our public works in Southern Nevada, and as well as bringing in public health and the education folks with Southern Nevada Health District, UMC, and the Transportation Research Center's Pedestrian Safe Project at UNLV. With 90 people, it was important that we stayed organized. We broke all 90 individuals into 4 groups: education, enforcement, engineering and planning, and policy. This is largely how we address traffic safety currently. I do want to thank Jennifer Gruby and Aaron Breen for chairing the education group. I want to thank Lieutenant Campbell and Lieutenant Diebold from Las Vegas Metro and CCSDPD for chairing the enforcement group. Tori Jackson from the City of Las Vegas and Chris Dingle from CCSD for the engineering and planning group. And policy was chaired by Joanna Jacob from Clark County and Dr. Waugh at a point. And so that was how we met multiple times. We met twice at Clark High School. It was important to get everybody in the same room, kicked off by the superintendent, again with all the departments at CCSD as well, to make sure that we were unified in our path forward. I want to briefly speak about how we approach traffic safety day to day. Every single day we approach traffic safety as the Safe Systems approach. These are broken out by safer people, safer vehicles, safer speeds, safer roads, and post-crash care. But I think what's most important are the guiding principles, because when you think of school zone safety in our children and our students, these guiding principles are extremely true when it comes to the conversation about school traffic safety, that death and serious injury are unacceptable, humans do make mistakes, humans are vulnerable, responsibility is shared, safety is proactive, and redundancy is crucial. And so each of the recommendations that we developed fall into one of those categories or within those guiding principles. The document and the report before you that was accepted by the Clark County Board of County Commissioners lists out 75 recommendations over those 4 domains within 4 timelines. You can see the breakout under each of the domains, that they're pretty evenly split out between immediate and long-term. Immediate, our hope is we're working on things every single day. We're out painting crosswalks just before I came here today. We're actively ensuring that we're trying to get ready for this school year, and then long-term with 5+ years, and then everywhere in between. And so each of these recommendations has a lead, and then it also has a timeline attached to it as well. I don't have time to go over all 75 recommendations, so this slide largely represents everything except the immediate and short term. So this is pretty much the mid and the long, with some of the short term sprinkled in there. Again, when you look at these, some of these might be common sense. It was important, though, that we took the opportunity to take this regional coalition and formalize some of these conversations that we've been having for decades. Who's responsible where? Where does the financial burden fall? We had those conversations, and again, when you look at the recommendations, we believe that each and every one of those are achievable with the proper cooperation from the owners of those. I'll highlight just a few. We are ramping up back to school education, especially with AB6 coming on board for the first time with the double penalties and the extended use of the school zone flashers. We are very excited to work with Chief Clark and all of the regional law enforcement to beef up enforcement the first 2 weeks, as well as several other items on here as well. Engineering is something largely that is held on the local municipality side. I'm very excited to announce that with AB6, the county is planning on extending the use of the school zone flashers to 50 minutes in the morning and 50 minutes in the afternoon. So that'll be 40 minutes before the bell and 10 minutes after the bell in the morning, and then 10 minutes before the bell and 40 minutes in the afternoon. We believe that we're working towards regional alignment on the use of those flashers. I think the city of Las Vegas is right there with us. I think they're actually going to add a little bit more time. And then ensuring that, I think the legislative intent was clear, that during the winter break, we want to ensure that we take the opportunity, we evaluate it, we make any changes that we need to, and then also incorporate a feedback loop from the schools directly to the municipalities working through the district, of course, to ensure that if we need more time on those flashers, we have the ability to use those flashers. And then policy, there's always work to be done. CCSD has an incredible Safe Routes to School program, which is led by Jennifer Gruby, who's in the audience. We also need to make sure that we do incorporate charter schools and private schools traffic safety into their areas. It's not a burden that we're asking CCSD to pick up, but working with the State Public Charter School Authority, ensuring that they have the appropriate resources, and ensuring anything that we develop from this working group also that gets sent to them as well is a priority of ours. And then one of the last things is ensuring that we work through land development and including safe routes to school in everything that we do. That might sound simple, but I'll use South Career Technical Academy as an example right now. If you have the chance to drive Star in between Las Vegas Boulevard and Bermuda, you have Shore Elementary right there, and then you have Liberty up the street. We're very excited that the county just built its first mile of detached protected bike lane in over like 5 to 6 years. And so those are things that we know as e-bikes are becoming and e-devices are becoming more used. We need to build that infrastructure, and we need to make sure that we prioritize those locations that are directly next to the schools. And we appreciate Brandon McLaughlin and Chris Dingle for working with us as South Career Technical Academy was being built, that we could get ahead of what that road network looked like. And so we're excited. There is also one on the east side on Hollywood in between Charleston and Sahara that's been there for about 7 years. That's incredibly well used, and that's the only other protected bike lane. And again, making sure that we prioritize those locations next to school. Here's kind of the list, wrapping up in our priorities and our quick wins as we go into the school year. We had a donation from F1 that is funding $100,000 in education materials to make sure that we have the opportunity, working with Kirsten and her team, to ensure that these high quality education materials that range from school zone rules to working on some new programs as well. We have those opportunities to have them developed, have them designed, have them translated, and have them into the hands of the people that need them the most. We do have 2 weeks of enforcement planned as we go back to school. As I mentioned, we are optimizing and using our discretion that we have now with the use of the school zone flashers to make sure that we're adding more time when appropriate. The county's tracking over 2,000 to 3,000 items that we're actively doing right now, getting ready for the school district or for the school year. Henderson just released a list as well today of the items that they've been working on getting ready for the school year. And then most importantly is sticking with the data collection that we have been using. I don't want to change the way we've been collecting data because it's very important that we use the definition that we have defined moving forward so that we're able to track progress in the area of reducing injuries and fatalities. One of the items that did not get added into your slide, into the slide, but it is in the report, I believe it's page 16 and 17. Last week, with the support of the Board of County Commissioners, the county submitted an interim joint judiciary bill to address e-bikes and e-scooters. The plan and the request is listed, again, pretty much on page 16 and 17 into the report. I'll briefly go over those because I know that a lot of questions might revolve around e-devices. Our goal is to create 2 new categories of e-devices. Number 1 is a high-powered electronic device. The best example is those electric one-wheels. Those don't necessarily fit into any category currently in law. We also have people illegally manipulating the device that now makes it go over the 28 miles an hour. That needs a category as well with electronic motorcycles. We want to add an anti-tampering clause to make sure whatever you're buying is what you're currently riding. We also have a mandatory helmet law that we will be recommending as a part of this package. Currently, most of the municipalities have passed a law that anybody under age of 18 that's on an electronic device has to have a helmet. We believe, again, for the regionality of this issue, that we need a state law that's passed to make sure it's the same across the Southern Nevada. And then extending DUI and impound authority to these devices as well. There is a chart that's, again, listed on page 17 that might be helpful. We are recommending the minimum age of 11 years old for any electronic device, and then ensuring that they know the rules of the road. The number one reason that we're seeing these crashes with children on devices is that they do not understand the rules of the road. Utah passed House Bill 381 this year, and it was implemented this year. It essentially made the permit test like permit light to make sure that you understand the rules of the road. And so we recommend that's a starting place. It is only a recommendation, and we look forward to having a robust conversation during the legislative session. So with that, again, President, members of the board, Superintendent, I greatly appreciate the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open it up for discussion. Trustee Zamora.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate it. I appreciate seeing all the changes. I know there was some changes starting up at the end of the last school year. For example, there was the no U-turn signs. I know at my daughter's school, there was about 5 in front of the street. They're there, but are people really paying attention to them, right? So how are we, besides our banners, going to do more messaging about that? The other thing I want to share that I did appreciate about that school is that they also had, at the crosswalks that are in front of the school, they had barriers so cars are not able to park. I do understand that was from the municipality that they fund that, but is that somewhere in your plan as well, of probably increasing some of those?
Great question. So I'll take that in 2 parts. The first one about no U-turns. I had the privilege of working on the legislation about 6 to 8 years ago that made that a state law. We understand that there's only so much we can do on education and enforcement. I do believe engineering is going to change the way on no U-turns in front of school zones. You'll see some examples across the valley of municipalities using the car stops down the median to prevent folks from making the U-turns. That is something that is in here to make sure that we expand that when possible. We want to ensure that emergency access is always maintained for our fire departments, and so working through some of those. And then also understanding the on-site circulation of the school sometimes changes. So we don't want to put a hard barrier in front of the school and then something changes that disrupts the traffic pattern. And so working collaboratively with the school district and with the construction group and the facilities groups to understand that. But we do intend it is in here to, when we talk about redundancy is critical, that engineering component of putting that physical barrier in the median is the number one thing we can do. You know, we can educate, we can continue to have that conversation. I know there's PSAs that are coming out that address the no U-turns, as well as the literature that we're putting out there with reminders as we all go back to school. There is still more work to do, but you know, hopefully that answers that first part. The second part with the barriers on the bump outs at crosswalks. Some of the municipalities are great about doing that. It's not necessarily consistent right now. We want to look at, you know, a lot of that comes in daylighting at crosswalks. You know, the crossing guards and the kids want to be able to see, and it's a barrier to prevent people parking too close to the crosswalks. The easiest way to do that is with red paint and to have that visual reminder if that's a no parking zone. And then with the most extreme is, you know, putting a physical infrastructure in there. That is an engineering recommendation in here, and we look forward to continuing rolling those out valley-wide.
Perfect, because yeah, the barrier part for the crosswalks, I have seen the difference in different schools. You know, because if they're parking too close, especially the younger kids, they know it's safe to cross on the crosswalk, but they'll just kind of peek out of there. And if there's a car parked too close, visibility is an issue. The other question I have is about the back-to-school enforcement blitz. You are partnering up with some departments. Can you kind of talk about what departments those are?
I think largely we have every department that was a part of this group, which was every department in Southern Nevada. The sheriff has been incredibly proactive in traffic safety over his tenure as sheriff, working with the captain over in the traffic bureau, Jarvis Dudley, now with Chief Clark at CCSD. We do believe that every municipality's law enforcement, including the Nevada Highway Patrol, would be a part of that back-to-school enforcement.
Okay. Question for our comms department is, what kind of messaging are we putting out there? You know, we are in a very, you know, sensitive times right now, and just making sure, letting folks know this is what we're doing, this is what to expect. You know, it's nothing more than what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Kirsten Sear for the record. And I just wanted to add on that we had scheduled a press conference for today that Chief Clark was going to help lead to announce the multi-jurisdictional enforcement that we anticipate seeing next week and throughout the school year. And we ended up rescheduling that because of what happened last night, unfortunately, in our officer who was killed. But we will be rescheduling that for later this week. So we do have a commitment from all of our law enforcement partners to do a multi-jurisdictional crackdown. But in terms of communications, and also I would say, you know, again, we want to recognize that our Safe Routes to School, Mr. Beasley and Ms. Gruby are here tonight. You're welcome to pop up if I'm missing something. But we're trying to align all communications together, and I think that's one of the newer things that we've seen. Andrew has already mentioned that we're aligning our back-to-school communications with the county communications. We're even aligning, the Raiders is announcing something that will be a really great outreach regarding traffic safety at our rescheduled press conference. So the great news is that the community not only is coming together for solutions, but we're also figuring out how we can communicate together. And I want to make sure I'm answering your question, but we're making sure that we have a website that has all sorts of different tools. We'll be sending out regular communications for principals. We're going to have a toolkit for principals so they can pull if they're having an assembly or if they're in need of a guest speaker. Ms. Gruby's department has been working on student-led videos. I don't think anybody wants to hear us. Kids don't want to hear us saying, be careful in traffic zones. So we have actual videos that were created by CCSD students. But another great example is Metro's Student Advisory Council is actually creating student-led videos as well, and they're working with us to make sure that all of our messages are aligned. So does that answer your question in terms of communication?
No, it does. I appreciate the toolkit part of it. And President, if I may do one follow-up, it's more of a comment. There was a really good stint we had with our Fab Five on social media from CCSD PD motorcycle team. And that was such a hit with parents, like the moms were loving it on Facebook, and I will never forget, but they did really good, funny post, but it was straight to the messaging. I'm wondering if we can do something similar in collaboration with all the different departments as well. I think that would be interesting to see, they're all getting together because it was resonating with people. So that's it for now, my first round.
Pretty
Thank
funny.
you.
You're right.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Stofferkin?
So first, I really want to applaud getting 90 individuals to have a common goal for our students to be safe in this capacity has never happened. So thank you for the work. I know it's been long overdue. I'll go into my questions. It'll be round one for me, too. So I had the pleasure, I want to acknowledge and thank you publicly. I had the opportunity to visit schools in my municipality of Henderson, almost 40, and the top three, one of the top three was school safety. And it's going to lead into the question that I have, is how do people, as we encountered, know who to go to? Like and it was a unique situation on the roadway that we were having to solve the problem. Which municipality, what do people have to do and where can they go in this process to find out how maybe an area can be improved? Maybe we'll stop there.
Absolutely. I'll talk briefly in the beginning and then pass it over to Kirsten because we greatly appreciate the work that CCSD's done with us. We want to know the issue. We can't be on every road on every corner. And that is an issue that we had the chance to talk about several months ago. Working with CCSD and all the jurisdictions, we want to make it as easy as possible and put it into a central online resource. And so I'll pass it to Kirsten to talk about the website that CCSD has created.
Yeah, I would say three. We had three really great wins last year. One was Mr. Bennett pulling together 90 people and getting actual recommendations out of them, which is a minor miracle. But another was better tracking our data, which is available on our website. I just want to make sure everybody knows on our CCSD website, we update it weekly. And so everybody can see that throughout the school year, although hopefully our numbers will be way lower. And the third is that we actually have a page where you can go on our website now, where you can go and search a school and figure out what jurisdiction it's in. And it explains, like, for example, many people assume that we handle crossing guards, but our municipal partners actually pay for and manage our crossing guards and decide where to place crossing guards. So we can direct them to that. And then obviously for infrastructure, we can direct them to the municipalities. One thing I learned through this process that I didn't know, and I'm sure Mr. Bennett is the expert here, but we have schools that are bordered by 2 and sometimes 3 different, they could be bordered by Clark County, North Las Vegas, and Las Vegas. And so that poses, I'm sure Mr. Bennett can talk more, but it poses a huge infrastructure challenge for making some of these improvements. And so, but when you look up a school on our website now, you can see where the jurisdictions are and where the school lands. And then there's a link to the municipalities so you can make a request for a crosswalk repair or whatever you think needs to happen.
Just to add briefly, Andrew Bennett for the record, we have a management system to ingest complaints, comments, and concerns. That's the format that we want to receive those, and so we greatly appreciate CCSD putting those out there out front. The City of Las Vegas and the county use the same platform of Fix It Clark County, Fix It Las Vegas. That's where we want to receive that information. That way it can be tracked, there can be accountability, and there can be follow-through in ensuring that those get addressed.
Thank you. That is amazing. And so I think just having people knowing where to go is going to be a big help to what we encountered, because I had a bit of a bouncing back and forth, but it's all resolved. It's in the queue. As a follow-up to what you were saying, there was a part of the report that talks about clarifying the roles and the responsibilities of all the recommendations. So it's an overarching question. How and who and when would that happen? Because I know that is a big lift, and clarifying that will help with the implementation of those immediate recommendations. And then I'll put myself back in the queue.
Thank you for the question. Andrew Bennett for the record. There are lead agencies identified in the document in the recommendations. In the backup and in our working drafts, there's support agencies as well in there. Some of these are significant lifts that are of great financial burden. Every time we talk about adding crossing guards, it's the millions. It's not thousands. It's in the millions. And so we wanted to ensure that there was agencies identified. And that was one of the key contributing factors to the timeline. We wanted realistic timelines to ensure that if we put it down on paper, it was something that we could, try to implement that recommendation. And so our board, the Board of County Commissioners, has asked for great accountability on this report. My first update to the Board of County Commissioners is on September 15th. The county agencies received clear communication that this is a priority and to implement it as best we can. And so between accountability and then already having identified the leads of these agencies and support agencies, we believe we have a clear path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. My questions have been answered by both the presentation and by some of my colleagues' questions here, so I just have one constituent question. So we have school starting in just a few days, kickoff, and exciting on August 10th. So the constituent questions that are coming up right now, of course, some of them, they're very concerned about the school start times. So they want to know if there has been any discussion, and I know this is kind of like maybe a little bit too early to ask, but any projections as far as parents being worried about, in the winter, being dark, after school, getting out really late, anything like that, in relationship to this safety report.
Thank you. Kirsten Sear for the record. Actually, these were some of the things that we considered when we were making the decision about school start times. For example, we had high schoolers that were walking to the dark in the morning for quite a number of weeks. And now that we have adjusted all start times to be later, and middle school's at 7:30, but it's still a half hour later than high school was, we anticipate there'll only be 2 weeks where the students might be walking in the dark, and one of those is actually holiday break. So we think actually that will improve traffic safety for our students. There's also a fair amount of research that high school students who drive themselves to school encounter fewer crashes when they drive later in the day. So we are very hopeful that this actually reduces the number of traffic incidents.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I had communicated that information from our previous meetings and our previous reports. This came from a group of parents from an elementary school where I believe they are one of the schools that are starting at 7:30 instead of around the 9 o'clock time. So I just want to throw that out there so that you kind of have the background or the kind of the parameter within which they're coming from. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. My questions go after on page, I think it's 47 of 78. That's how it's numbered on my packet. So the question talks about securing dedicated funding streams for the efforts. First, let me back up, went straight to the point. Thank you for your leadership and for our superintendent's leadership to get this across the finish line. So thank you. And extend my gratitude to the Clark County Commissioners for their priority in this subject as well. My question has to do with grant funding and securing a dedicated funding stream. So now that you have this first of its kind model, is there an idea to go after, national funding to be able to support the work? And if we were to acquire regionally that funding, would it go to Clark County and then work its way down? How would that work?
Thank you for the question, Trustee. Andrew Bennett for the record. I'll answer from the infrastructure side, and then I'll see if CCSD wants to jump in. On infrastructure, it's important to always have a planning level document that we can go to secure those fundings. We have to have an idea, we have to have a plan forward, and so that's step one, which we've now achieved. Step two is to go after every available dollar at federal, state, and local level. I'll give an example in here. It talks a lot about, there's a long-term goal in engineering that talks about incorporating school safety into capital improvement projects. One of the most efficient ways for us and cost-effectively to make the improvements in front of the school zone is to do it when there's a road project in front of the school. And so that's kind of that talking point of ensuring that safe routes to school is represented in these capital improvement projects. Infrastructure is incredibly expensive right now. A traffic signal starts at $1.2 million. An enhanced crosswalk starts at about $850,000 to $635,000 right now. And so we do need to ensure that, these are priorities of the jurisdictions, which I think that they have been, cooperative to this point, in ensuring that when we're in front of that school, we have the opportunity to take that chance. With that said, there's also additional streams at the state level and at the federal level that we need to aggressively pursue. There's been conversations of always incorporating our partners over at the RTC as they're the regional funding agency for road infrastructure, and to ensure that we're aligned with them, and they were a great partner on this project as well. There's micro grants that have successfully been implemented in some of the municipalities, specifically Las Vegas and Henderson have done a great job with that. Detweiler Elementary was one of the schools that has 3 jurisdictions on each 3 sides of it. We all took ownership and a portion of that project. Some of the municipalities went out for state funding for that project. The county self-funded that project on our responsibility. And so now that we have a planning level document, we're going to go after those funds aggressively. It was a request made by multiple folks that we do try to include a dollar item where we can in this document. I can't even guess what this would cost to fully implement. Every school zone is unique. We have 499 campuses across CCSD, charter and private schools as well. There are some big ticket items in here that we are aggressively looking for funding on right now. One of those items is a LiDAR scan regionally so that we're able to know exactly what infrastructure is where. I think that cost was about $1.5 million. That we are already having conversations with folks on getting that funded, which we appreciate those conversations early. But ensuring safe routes is funded, ensuring infrastructure is funded, ensuring that the communication in the future is funded is a top priority because none of it happens without funding.
Thank you. My other question has to do with, you mentioned that you now have the information automated, and so who owns that platform? Is that the county? The second is, are you fully staffed in your crossing guards? And then the last one is, who owns the legislative recommendation that you mentioned for the Judiciary Committee?
Thank you. I lost the first question. What was the first question?
So you mentioned that you now have automated the
Yes.
data, and who owns it? If you're fully staffed in crossing guards, and then who owns the legislative recommendation that you are thinking of doing in front of Judiciary?
Thank you so much for the question, Trustee. Andrew Bennett, for the record. I'll take it in those 3 parts. So the first one with the crash data. Currently, that's a collaborative project between CCSD PD does own the platform currently, but it's state data that we're ingesting, and so that's something that we continue to look for. That's how we want to move forward. I don't want to speak for anybody, but it's worked out pretty well so far. So it's state data that's transmitted to the school district and to the county. Again, many appreciations to Lieutenant Campbell for working on that with us. And then crossing guards, we're in a great spot this year. We always need great crossing guards. I think that was a message that was made clear by the crossing guard company. We're not just looking for crossing guards, we're looking for great crossing guards. So we always encourage people, even if we're at 100% capacity, which we're not, we're getting close. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but we always encourage people to sign up to be a crossing guard because there's always going to be a need. And then the last question with legislation, that was a Clark County request from the county to interim judiciary. And again, it was only a request at this point. During the special session, there was I think it was ACR 4 was passed, which mandated that interim judiciary study this topic. So we submitted our report as well as our recommendation to help along in those discussions and to create that place to have that conversation.
Trustee Barone.
Thank you, Madam President. Just on the way over here, I was passed up by an EUC. For those of you who don't know the term, that the one-wheelers there that looks like what BC rides in the comic strip, right? And I was going at the limit-ish, right? And this guy passed me. No shirt, no helmet, and he flipped me off because, anyhow, to the point. Really, and it's only a matter of time before you see students trying to do this, quite legal. Thank you very much for all your work. Again, as Trustee Stoffergen pointed out, getting 90 people together to work on a project, that's pretty amazing. I do have a question for Madam Sear. Does the district have a clearinghouse somewhere to take in, reports where there might be certain hotspots during the week? I applaud that, again, our district police is going to be working with all the municipalities and the county police to, of course, address here the first week or two. But, human psychology being what it is, as soon as the police are not there, people will begin to revert back to their old ways. And I don't know, just reminiscing, dropping off some of our family kids at a certain school that I won't mention the name Whitney, and I won't mention the other school White. Pretty much, the no U-turn thing there is ignored, right? I noticed that everyone behaved real nice when a school district, a motor cop, went right by, but as soon as he was gone, people started flipping the thing here, and I see that, and it's so tempting to go ahead and just follow with the flock, right? But I realize just how dangerous that is, and there is a reason. Do we have a clearinghouse? I guess the question is, do we have a clearinghouse program or anything to where people can report hotspots, maybe for later on, unannounced blitzes? Hey, there's nothing that works best than to see people getting pulled over and being given, really expensive tickets.
Kirsten Sear for the record. Yes, Lieutenant Campbell from our Traffic Enforcement Division has noted that they can go to a school and write a ton of tickets and the next day go and the same behavior is happening from the same drivers. So I think that's why it's important that we have this multi-pronged approach of infrastructure, education, and enforcement, of course, too. So that's the solution, I think. And to answer your question about reporting, we do have on our traffic safety website, which we are currently continuing to improve. Even we were working on it today, where we have all of this information and data. There is a link where you can email our traffic safety division and CCSD PD. And I know they work very closely, not only with our fellow law enforcement agencies, but also with Safe Routes to School. So sometimes if we're hearing that there's a problem at Safe Routes to School, they will come and provide education to that school community. So it is a multi-pronged approach.
Before we go into our second round, Trustee Henry, do you have anything? Any questions, comments?
Thank you so much, Madam President. Andrew, thank you for all of your work on this safety plan and just bringing it all together, bringing everyone together. I have noticed in North Las Vegas, specifically, that at the crosswalks, what are they called again? Oh goodness. I just lost train of thought. But at the crosswalks where, cars cannot cross into the crosswalks, and I can't think of the name of it, but it's okay. I noticed that there are more than were at the end of the school year, and I know that it's going to help our students be safe and also our cars on the roadways. At one particular intersection, I've had two incidents myself where cars were totaled. And so I can see that it's going to bring more safety to our roadways as a whole, but more importantly for our students. So I do thank you all for the work that you have done, and I'm looking forward to just keeping students safe and watching the data. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Henry. Is Trustee Biasotti still on? Trustee
Yes, I am
Biasotti, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I do. I'm so glad this is happening. I know there's a huge need for it, so thank you. I know in the presentation, the recommendations are to be presented until September. Did I get that correctly?
Sorry, sorry, can you repeat the question, trustee?
So the recommendations that are in this report are to be presented to the commissioners until September. That we have a date for that already?
Thank you, trustee. Andrew Bennett for the record. We presented this at least 2 weeks ago to the Board of County Commissioners, and it was received by the Board of County Commissioners. Chair Naft and the board asked that my office comes before them again on September 15th to report progress in implementing the recommendations. So the Board of County Commissioners has already received the report, and then we'll provide an update on September 15th.
And to follow up on that, when you talk about implementing the recommendations, is there installation from the engineering and planning that you talked about? Is there installation that will be taking place between now and that time?
Absolutely. There's soft infrastructure and then there's hard infrastructure. I think that when you see the reports from the jurisdictions, it's impressive what's already being done and what's been done this summer already. The basic infrastructure that we can already do with light timing, with programming, those will be ready on day one. And then, we'll have an exact number of crosswalks painted, and infrastructure improvements that we've made on that September 15th date. I was at the Superintendent Student Advisory Council yesterday, and a student from Sierra Vista thanked us for finally getting to their school zone flasher on Robindale. That took 3 years, and we know that was way too long. But we're excited that this is going to be the first school year that they go back to school with a school zone flasher on Robindale in front of their school. And so we believe that there will be items on engineering, education, and enforcement that have already taken place by that September 15th day.
And my last question, I'm trying to wrap it up because I know there's so much we want to talk about, but especially when it comes to this topic. But what was the criteria used to designate? Back on page 8, you do have the categories there. And I was wondering, what was the criteria used to designate the colors from immediate, short-term, midterm, and long-term?
Thank you for the question, Andrew Bennett for the record. So the key is at the bottom of the page with immediate, short-term, midterm, and long-term. Immediate is as close to before school start year, short-term being 0 to 2 years, midterm being 2 to 5 years, and then long-term being 5+ years. It was a group decision, largely made by our chairs of each of those sub-working groups to ensure that we had a realistic implementation plan. We didn't want to say, I'm not even going to give a long-term one, that we're going to implement it tomorrow because we didn't think we could implement it tomorrow. So we wanted realistic recommendations. And in the report itself, when you look at the list of recommendations, it has that time frame next to that recommendation as well in the report.
Yes, I see that. And the reason I'm asking what criteria was used is because I have a real sense of urgency, and I've had it for years since my kids have been going to high school. All the high schools, and I feel, in my opinion, that the criteria should begin with schools that are sitting on main streets, on very busy roads like Buffalo and Tropicana and Flamingo and those types of streets. I was wondering if that's perhaps the criteria you had used on the busiest roads if that's where the changes were implemented first, more immediately, which is what I think I would like to see. Personally, I have kids that it's just been very frustrating to see, for example, Spring Valley High School sits on Buffalo, and I've literally had to use my car at times to protect the kids that are crossing because I see the cars are coming fast, and there's no flashing lights. There is no crosswalk guard, no crossing guard. And it's an issue that I've had, especially because just one block to the other direction, there are 3 crossing guards for one elementary school. And I wish I could just grab one of those and put them over on Buffalo, but I can't. I know it's such a long process with the city and the municipalities. So that was why I was mentioning. I was hoping that the criteria was based on the size of the road and the type of road that the school sat on.
Thank you, trustee, for the question. Andrew Bennett for the record. Implementation will be needs-based of demonstration of crashes, speed, lack of compliance. And so the implementation of these recommendations will largely be based off of an index in criteria and how we place these assets. One of the things that I want to appreciate the superintendent for addressing, I think almost on your second week, the county had largely waited for the school district to give us easements to CCSD property. The superintendent immediately fixed that. It was a board item many months ago, if not a year ago, to give Brandon additional signature authority to ensure that we can get those easements quickly. The single largest delay that we had, both at Spring Valley and at Sierra Vista, was getting the easements. So now having that improved process, we will cut down on times, we will get those in place quicker, and we appreciate the administrative change that will help us address that. But to your question, yes, largely the needs and risk assessment is absolutely in play when we look at implementing these countermeasures.
That is wonderful to hear. And thank you so much. I thank the leadership that we have now for really taking this to task. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Esparza-Steffergan. Oh, that's true. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you so much for coming and doing this. I know, I'm sure the county commissioners had a lot of questions as well. So my son is an ARPA-View graduate, and so I'm a parent, so I realize how insane that area is. And I just want to say this, it's really difficult as a trustee, as a parent, to see that things have to move when someone passes away, and it's not okay. And even though we can't prevent someone from doing something illegally, it is incredible that we just started removing red tape and things started happening. And so I'm grateful that we're opening these conversations and we're doing this now. So I wanted to start with, so a lot of my questions were answered, so like about the principals being supported. And, one of the questions I had, I'll start back at the data. So when you're looking at the data, are you looking at, obviously when students are walking to school and going home, are you expanding how far they're walking or how far the bus is dropping them off, or how far is the incident or the perimeter?
It's a great question. So that's largely based off of CCSD zoning. One of the reasons that we historically haven't provided crossing guards to career technical academies is there's no zoning for those schools. And so right here, right now, at the Ed Shed, when you look at the schools that we're zoned for right now, so it'd be Rowe for the elementary, I think Cunningham maybe for the middle school, and then Del Sol for the high school. An elementary school is typically, at least for Rowe, the square miles is 1.7 square miles for the school. And then up to Del Sol, it's 17, you can have a school zone, or rather a school boundary that's up to 17 square miles for a high school. And so one of the early wins of this group as well, and I want to thank the superintendent and associate superintendent, Amber Rideout with transportation, we never knew the locations of the bus stops. And we're still working on that, with the new system that's coming online. And so that information sharing is helpful. Those stops change, and so sometimes it's difficult for us to make those hard infrastructure improvements on a stop that might be changed. And so we're looking at 0 to 2 miles, which is usually the walking distance for a school. We have a lot of schools that are walking schools. That largely means kids are getting dropped off by their parents. We want to encourage that walking. We want to encourage that rolling and strolling. And that's where we think Safe Routes to School for all of their efforts there too. And then outside of those 2 miles is when we're going to start wanting to look at the bus stops. And then as well, working with our partners over at the RTC Transit, making sure that, we have a significant number of students that are on transit as well, ensuring that we have a better idea. One of my passion projects last year was Valley High School on Eastern. We had a bus stop that was maybe 400, 500 feet from the intersection. Kids are just going to cross the street where it's convenient. And so we want to look at every available resource in our toolbox. And so that might be moving the cross or the bus stop closer to the signal or past the signal so that they have to hit a crosswalk before they cross the street. And so the answer is yes, and hopefully that helped answer some of it. But
It does, but I'm looking also at on not just the perimeter, but the time. So like sometimes my son, for example, will take the late bus. And so, instead of getting out directly at 4, maybe an incident would happen between maybe 3 and 5 p.m. Maybe he's taking the late bus and it's happening at 6 p.m. And so that's usually because I'm at a meeting and he has to take the late bus. So.
And we were all there at one point, so thank you for the question, Trustee Andrew Bennett, for the record. That's why it was important for us to establish 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. as the data. I don't want that to make it sound like we're ignoring everything that happens after 6 p.m. or 6 a.m.
Yeah.
That's my day job. I focus on every crash every day. I start by reading the fatality reports from the night before. I go to every fatality that occurs in Clark County because we want to make sure that we learn from every single time that something happens, that we can implement change to make sure that doesn't happen again. And to your point, or I think it was you that brought up, we don't want to wait to that point where we have a fatality to make that change. And so we're always trying to identify patterns, recommend engineering solutions, and try to change policy where we can. But the report is 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but my office looks at all the data all the time.
Perfect, thank you. And I want to go back to the part where we're having, so when we have CCSD PD and we have all the other municipality police departments coming together, is there, how much, we don't have enough officers in every corner, right? That's just not geographically possible, but there's so much more technology available. So now Las Vegas Metro has the Fusion Center, and they have the drones that are available. Are we using those partners? Are we able to implement? I know we were going to have a briefing, a briefing on that, and I'm so sad to hear about the loss of our Metro officer. But it's something that I think about a lot, is to not have an officer there available quickly as possible, and whether it's after the accident or to prevent the accident.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Andrew Bennett, for the record. I'll take that in 2 parts. The first one is the county and the city is incredibly proud that for the first time in a long, long time, we directly funded a new squad for Metro traffic. We added 8 additional bodies to Metro traffic for the first time in a long time. And again, we appreciate the cooperation of the sheriff focusing on traffic safety. Citations year to date are up 89% in the Valley, which is a significant improvement, and I think it's helping lead to that 30% decrease in fatalities that we're currently experiencing year to date. When it comes to the second part, it is a recommendation in the report to utilize all available technology to enforce the law. Last session, I had the unique honor of presenting red light cameras to the legislature. That got 1 hearing and then no vote. It is the opinion of myself and the working group that we should be utilizing every available piece of technology to enforce. There has been several conversations about automated traffic enforcement in school zones. That conversation's never gone far. There's been several questions about having a cop in every school zone. The second closest thing would be having a camera in every school zone to enforce that very specific traffic law. And so that's a long-term policy recommendation in the report, is to, if it's not readily available by law, then to go advocate for it, to go implement it.
Yeah, thank you. And you have a difficult job to review all that and to advocate in that way. I do have one last question, if that's okay. We talked about the metrics and the things that are being reported to the county. Is the board going to be receiving any of those metrics back?
So great question, Trustee. Thank you for the question. Andrew Bennett, for the record. We are going to continue to work collaboratively on the implementation and the reporting of this process. I had a conversation just yesterday with Kirsten as we prepare for that presentation on September 15th, that we will continue to work collaboratively with the school district, and then I'm happy to continue to pass on that information through the appropriate teams here at the school
Thank
district.
you. We would really like that, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Esparza Stafford.
Okay, I'll try to make them quick. It's a broad question, and we kind of broke it down into 3 categories, like parents, principals, and policy. So it's more about when you talked about your lessons learned. There are things that have been recommended. We know it's going to take time, but are there things outside of our district that you have experienced and learned from maybe other school districts or other cities that maybe these are things maybe we should put on our radar? And I'm thinking of more of the district to consider that maybe wasn't able to be put into the report.
I'll take that in 2 parts. So I think there's a few things that we need to get back to the basics on that are identified as long-term solutions, and that require the appropriate funding to implement. We talked about the importance of knowing the rules of the road. It's important that kids continue to receive that education in person, in my opinion, and that's identified in the report. I think that's a more going back to basics, driver's edge, just to call it out, driver's ed to call it out. And again, ensuring that the appropriate funding and legislation is in place would be step 1. Step 2, I think, again, you have an incredible Safe Routes to School department program at the school district. They coordinate with their colleagues all the time. We are unique. We're unique in every sense. You guys are so large. You cross 6 jurisdictions. You cross 7 road owners. And so I think this document was about getting back to the basics, and then to ensure that we have a path forward to advance and to improve as we go forward. But I would say, there are things that Nevada historically, we're one of the few states that doesn't allow automated traffic enforcement largely. That's something that we're falling behind on, that we could easily look to multiple jurisdictions to show how beneficial that's been. But I think that we have the right team in place, the right conversations happening to be able to not only go after the funding, but also the ideas and then implement them.
And actually kind of took care of my other question, because I just want to know how we can continue to support the work, and maybe policy is something we can always revisit if pending the funding would be there to support it. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Can I add an item, if that's okay? Kirsten's here for the record. So it's I haven't watched the meeting yet, but it's my understanding that Clark County today discussed their legislative priorities and said that they will be putting the 75 points in school traffic safety working group report into their legislative priorities. And it's our intention to bring that to you as well when we do our larger legislative priorities, to see if you would like to ask us to advocate on behalf of the points of this report in the upcoming session.
Okay, Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. We try to separate our questions so we make sure we don't overlap, so we try to do that here. So for the 75 recommendations that we have, and I know you split it up into like engineering, education, all the municipalities, have we been able to get the low-hanging fruit, the stuff that we just kind of flip the switch? I know you talked about what the superintendent did, opening that up, but with the engineering, I mean, that sounds like the most expensive part.
I think with education great question. Thank you for the question, Andrew Bennett, for the record. With education being shortly behind with being expensive as well, low-hanging fruit is something that I'm very proud of with just getting the people in the same room. We had an immediate win on the first day that we were at Clark. All of the traffic signals are managed by RTC Fast in the Traffic Management Center, and they weren't receiving the school start times directly from the school district. That they have them, they're readily available. That conversation and cooperation goes back and forth. So all the signal timings are changing. We're changing the programming of the school zone flashers that we discussed as well. And so I think low-hanging fruit. It's also important to recognize, and I think this is something that I skipped in my presentation today, and also in front of the school or in front of the Board of County Commissioners as well. There's incredibly dedicated people at every jurisdiction that have done this for a long time. And so I want to highlight and lift up their work. Yeah. So I know the folks at the county incredibly well, but there are people down in Public Works that do this every single day, and they've done an incredible job for decades. What we were looking to do with this report was to be efficient, to be timely, to be proactive, and to ensure that we had a clear path forward. And so, yes, we are addressing the low-hanging fruit. Some of it is, there's been education materials that have been scanned and copied and scanned and copied, and you can't even read them anymore. We want to make sure that they're highly developed, that, they're easy to read, that they're translated properly, and that they're readily available. Those are the things that we are doing today. I plan on doing a few more hours tonight to make sure that we get through that list, that we're ready for Monday.
Yeah, thank you. And I really do appreciate our superintendent's work on bridging those gaps between our municipalities. So my second question was so our high incident locations, are we prioritizing that as far as first thing we do in 2027, first thing we do now in 2026?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Andrew Bennett, for the record. And I'll start in general in traffic safety and then go down to school zone safety. So we have 7,200 miles of road. We have about 35,000 intersections in southern Nevada. And again, in between, it's the size of the state of New Jersey, right? Yeah. And it's not necessarily fair to compare a small road next to a big road, right? And so the priority of my office is to compare like roads to like roads. And so if we're looking at an arterial, making sure that we're looking at Decatur and Jones together, but we're not comparing, Eastern to a minor road. And because that would skew the data if we would only be touching arterials, which is a priority. We have a significant investment in technology through working with our partners also at the RTC to make sure that we have a clear understanding of volume, of speed, of speeding, and then of crashes. This is one of the first times in the history of the state of Nevada that we've had digitized crash data to begin with. Wow. And so over the last 3 years, working with the RTCs, specifically their MPO, their Metropolitan Planning Organization, we have, I can tell you how many crashes happen in every school zone today. Or in every school's boundary. We've done significant work to make sure that when we have an investment that we put it in the right place, but we also don't want to ignore a minor road just because there's an arterial out there to prioritize. And so we are doing our best to balance our network. Neighborhood schools have different challenges than high schools that are on arterials and everything in between. And so we look forward. And also through this process with the schools that has benefited our working relationship with all of the municipalities just in general, which has been a benefit. And we look forward to working with them on traffic safety as we go. There's a million different things that we need to work on at any given point. So the answer to the question, yes, we are prioritizing. We are always tweaking how we look at those priorities to ensure that we're touching every corner at all times appropriately. It is one of the biggest frustrations when I do go talk to parents or principals at the school is why is our school not today? Yeah. We have to make sure that with the funding that is available that we address the immediate need. And I believe we're trying to do that best we can.
Thank you. And my last question, I promise, is driver's ed. So how can we make sure we put driver's ed in every high school?
So Kirsten Sear, for the record, this was a topic of conversation and frankly a request from the county. And so we did a little bit of digging in this. So there's a couple reasons why some of our high schools don't offer driver's ed now. One of the primary reasons is that my understanding is it's difficult to get certification to teach driver's ed right now in Nevada, and that many people are actually going out of state to get that certification. And so you'll notice that one of the, I would say it's a compromise. One of the compromises that we worked through, because there were many compromises in this report, is that we're asking NSHE to look at adding some additional certification here in Nevada so that we could have more certified teachers. We're also talking about increasing community partnerships for in-person driver's ed opportunities, even if they're not necessarily at our schools. So I hope that answers your question. We are trying to find ways to do this in a way that works for everybody.
Thank you.
Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I hope my question has a quick answer. The flashing lights when people are crossing on the crossroads, as we're talking about sometimes it being late. I know I'll use Monaco as an example. They're right by Lake Mead. There is a crosswalk, but there has been a death at the beginning of this year as well. Late at night, there's no signal there, and there's lighting is terrible there. So is that part of your engineering and planning? And if so, what kind of level would you put that in?
Thank you for the question, Trustee Andrew Bennett, for the record. There are probably no less than 4 recommendations that address the specific situation that you just brought up. Lighting is important, just general street lighting. Copper Theft did a real work on us, making sure we get those back up and running as well. But street lighting is number 1. Enhanced crosswalks is number 2, ensuring that if there's, a push button, rapid flashing beacon. Number 3 would be speed management. Lake Mead's an incredibly high-speed road with several schools on it. And then the 4th is ensuring that, we prioritize that location because it has a history. That road is a state highway. It's maintained by DOT. Commissioner Sagerblum has been extremely active in that conversation, as well as on Charleston and 28th as well. So we're working through the DOT as quickly as we can. There are limitations in their funding that sometimes prevent them working with outside of the curb, and so that might include putting up a rapid flashing beacon there. And so that is on our radar. It is on our priority list. It's just not necessarily our road, but the benefit of having everybody at this table was NDOT was also at this table, and we look forward to making sure that we all implement these recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, seeing nobody else in the queue, very quickly, Trustee Henry, is Trustee Biasotti still on? Okay, Trustee Henry, do you have anything else to add?
Nothing else to add. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, thank you so much for the presentation. Enjoyed the robust discussion, and we will close out 2.02. Before I open item 2.03, is there anyone who hasn't yet had a chance to turn in a public speaker card? No? Okay. All right. With that, we will go ahead and open item 2.03, 2027 legislative bill drafts.
Good evening, Madam President, Trustees, Superintendent Ebert. My name is Kirsten Sear, and I serve as the Chief Community Engagement Officer. Joining me are Nick Ciccone, Executive Director of Government Relations and Public Policy, and Anna Adkins, Director of Government Relations. So we are here tonight to begin to revisit the process of shaping our advocacy for the 2027 legislative session. And I want to make it super clear that we're not making big decisions on our bill draft request tonight. We want to get a little more guidance from you before the August 13th meeting, when we will make our big decisions. Today's presentation highlights the top 6 bill draft request concepts and platform priorities we've heard from the board, and you will receive 2 additional recommendations from staff. These proposals directly incorporate the feedback and guidance gathering that we have gathered following the June 11th board meeting. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Anna Adkins, Director of Government Relations.
Thank you, Kirsten. For the record, Anna Adkins. To refresh everyone's memory, I will be reviewing the BDR and legislative platform timeline, as well as the setting of our legislative priorities. So today, August 5th, serves as our opportunity to review and refine the potential BDR ideas based on feedback and guidance from the June 11th meeting, as Kirsten mentioned. By August 13th, the board will make its final BDR selections, leading up to the statutory submission deadline on September 1st. Following BDR submittal, the full legislative platform will be adopted in December, which helps our team advocate for our shared goals and priorities during the session. Each proposed concept is rigorously evaluated against 5 key strategic criteria. The Board of Trustees' priorities help direct alignment with the primary goals and values established by the governing body. Operational feedback provides insights and practical perspectives from the district personnel responsible for policy implementation. Fiscal impact provides a comprehensive analysis of potential costs, long-term financial commitments, and available funding mechanisms. Political viability and capacity, an assessment of legislative support and feasibility within the state legislature. And finally, professional staff recommendations, the data-driven expert guidance provided by executive staff to determine the most effective course of action. Continuous engagement and transparent communication with both the board and staff will remain a priority through this legislative cycle. And now I will turn it over to Nick Ciccone, Executive Director of Government Relations and Public Policy.
Thank you very much, Anna. As a reminder, here is the list of priorities the board voted to advance on June 11th. After I go over these ideas on this slide, I will hand it back over to Superintendent Ebert to give you a little bit more information about what we might ask for related to special education funding. But the list of top 6 was special education funding, pre-kindergarten and early childhood innovative literacy program funding, retention of the local control of facilities, transportation funding for career experiences and open enrollment, state budget process updates, and standards-based grading. As I said, you narrowed the list of bill draft requests to 6 in June. After researching these ideas, we'd like to offer a few suggestions. First, I will turn it over to Superintendent Ebert to speak a little bit more on a potential idea related to special education funding.
Well, thank you, Nick, very much. Madam President, members of the board, this first item was posted prior to some additional discussions that we've had not only locally here, but as well with other superintendents across the state. And so it reads, as posted, explore the possibility of combining pre-kindergarten funding, special education, and updates to the state budget process into one BDR. As we've been looking at the work and having the conversation and thinking about the efficiency study as well, special education on its own is massive. And so as we've been talking, Dr. Welsh, Deputy Superintendent Gonzalez, and I would say the entire cabinet as well, special education, we would like to suggest that we spend a little more time and dive deeper just in special education, as we know that there are many people that would like to do pre-kindergarten bills. And so that is something that we think others would carry. And that if we as a team, we do have expertise, we have the research that we've done recently, and so that is something that we offer in part of the discussion this evening.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Ebert. As you know, investments made in education are paying off with higher student achievement and lower numbers of teaching vacancies. Now is the time to accelerate our progress. We also believe an additional item can be paired with the updates to the state budget process that Chief Financial Officer Justin Dayhoff has recommended. After completing our research, we would like to present one more option to you for August 13th. NRS 387.12455 dictates that the governors, as practicable, must adjust general fund appropriations for the state education fund based on the Economic Forum's projections, inflation, and enrollment growth. While intended to provide flexibility during economic downturns, this qualifying language creates a loophole that allows the state to underfund public education when economic conditions improve. For school districts to successfully implement long-term educational programs, hire and retain qualified staff, and meet the diverse needs of our student population, funding must be guaranteed, not conditional. Removing the language converts a hopeful target into a firm, legally binding obligation, ensuring the public education is prioritized as a non-negotiable mandatory expense in every state budget. This is a simple amendment to NRS, which I'm always scared to say, but it is simple in terms of the change in the law that would be a game changer for public education. We would like to add this potential legislation for you to consider on August 13th. Overall, for your approval tonight, we are looking to add, as practicable, to the state budget process updates, as well as the staff recommendations related to special education funding. Thank you very much.
So really tonight, we're hoping to make some additions to the list of the bills that you would consider on August 13th. But we wanted to give you a preview into those additions and not spring them on you on August 13th, and make sure that you're comfortable with us also presenting on those items. I turn it back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. So on August 13th, we are narrowing all of these down, including these, potentially, these recommendations to 2, correct?
Kirsten Stewart for the record. That's correct. And also on August 13th, we'll be providing you, the team's been working really hard to find some financial estimates and also to figure out what other folks might be considering sponsoring some of these bills. Like the superintendent said, we've heard that there will be a sponsor for an expansion of pre-kindergarten, for example. We understand that there will be at least several bills related to updating SB 460, right? So we'll provide you with more context on all of these different ideas. There's also been a lot of conversations on the idea of standards-based curriculum. So we'll provide you with all of that background so that you can make a final decision on August 13th. But I think actually once we provide some of that background, some of these will naturally fall off the list.
Awesome, thank you. As I open this up for discussion, I just want to remind the team that August 13th is a very stacked agenda. And so this being on there as well, I think this is a really good opportunity for us to exhaust our questions, as much as possible, to maybe help us a little bit when we meet on the 13th. So I'll open it up for discussion. Trustee Bustamante Adams.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'm going to make sure I understand it. So we're exploring the possibility of combining the BDRs for pre-K, special ed, and the state budget process into one.
Nick Saccone for the record. I apologize, the slide, as we truly are having conversations with legislators, that part of the presentation is no longer accurate. The recommendation that staff has at this point would to be combine the as practicable language that I went over that prevents the state from using a loophole to not fund education adequately during economic downturns, and the state budget process updates, which looks at more like changing the count date that we use in order to plan for our school budgets. That would be our first recommendation, and the second recommendation came from Superintendent Ebert related to special education funding.
Got it. Thank you for helping me. So my question is regarding the state budget process. From what I understand from the last Commission on School Funding, a BDR for improvements to the state budget process was presented. Is that correct?
Kirsten Stewart for the record. That's my understanding that that is a BDR that they are exploring. And I think it's, and stop me team if I'm wrong, but I think it's fair to say there's going to be a fair amount of overlap on all of these items. We're also hearing that special education is going to be a really big topic in the upcoming legislative session. And so I think part of this is for us as a team to think about where can we chime in and double down our support, right? And so I think, in our minds at this point, what we're seeing is the importance of doubling down on special education and on this budget and as practicable language. But that's our recommendation. You can do what you want.
Thank you. And my next question is for the superintendent. So from the state budget process, that bill draft request would favor Clark County School District. The rules may have a problem with count day. And so superintendent, as a new officer role, was there any discussion at NAS regarding that bill draft on like changing the count day and other stuff on the budget process would be beneficial to Clark County, but the rules may not be as beneficiary as we are? Have you heard any of that?
So Superintendent Ebert, for the record, thank you for the question, Trustee Bustamante Adams. The sequence of events was the superintendents met prior to the Commission on School Funding meeting. So we haven't circled back on that item, but what I will share is there are 4 CFOs that sit on the Commission on School Funding, and 2 of them are rural and small entity CFOs, as well as Justin Dayhoff and then Mark Mathers, who's the CFO for Washoe County. And they all discuss those dates together, that they too have gone through several iterations with their proposal. It is, my last understanding was it would be beneficial to all school districts across the state and not just the larger school districts.
Okay, my last question for this round is regarding the possibility of adjusting or modernizing our tax base, right? Because that pie is not going to grow. And so is there conversation, Ms. Sear, that possibly, I know that Commission on School Funding had talked about it, but I don't think that they have the opportunity to bring it forth. It's a heavy, heavy lift. So do you know if another entity is entertaining bringing that forth?
Nick Saccone for the record. I did want to clarify one thing. With the modernizing the tax base, although the Commission on School Funding might not take that on directly, where they're maybe suggesting an actual change to, let's say, sales tax or property tax, that is absolutely something they will have to consider as they are making adjustments to the state budget process. And that is also something we are hearing from other legislators. I would never tell you confidently one fix or the other at this point in time, but I think as we continue to iron out the details with any of the bill draft requests, whether it's ours, the Commission on School Fundings, and other school districts, I think we're still figuring out what that would look like.
Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen.
Thank you for listening. I just appreciate, because I think, not that anybody needs credit, but we asked you to kind of think about combining big things, and we need to do that. And I think the combination of the pre-K with the special ed, because it's definitely going to yield a lot of return. So I'm looking at slide 5 of 7, and it seems like if we consider to combine 1 and 2 potentially with 5, is that my understanding?
Kirsten Sear for the record. What we are actually recommending, I know the slides said combine 1 and 2, but what we are actually recommending, because of new information we have about other support for pre-K, is that we focus on special ed, because it's such a big issue. And then we would combine 5 with a new
1.
idea to expand the pot in general, which is also a very big idea.
Yeah, they're all big ideas. So thank you for the clarification, because I'm now understanding. Okay. Can we stay on this slide? Because what I don't want to lose is there was also discussion about number 3. So what is it about number 3 that we're no longer considering?
Nick Saccone for the record. I think with that one, as we continue to have conversations, both with staff as well as with legislators, it's clear we don't need to necessarily go on the offensive with this. We should just be prepared for the conversation. If there is a legislator that brings forward something like first right of refusal for charter schools coming in and taking one of our facilities in a process that is not currently defined in law. Basically, we would be just on the defensive and ready to take on that conversation. We're not necessarily asking for a change to state law, because the state law protects your local control of your facilities right now.
Okay, that answers that. Thank you. So, I'm just very interested in the fact that if we go back to the new language, I think it's a couple slides, the proposal, there it is. Okay, so you're looking to potentially increase per pupil base. So what I always like to hear is a comparison. What are we paying right now as a state per pupil? And then what is the average nationwide, and what is the high? Just so we have something to compare it to.
Yeah, Kirsten Sear for the record. We will bring you all of these financial details on August 13th as well, but we are about $4,000 under the national average, if I'm remembering correctly. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. About 4,000.
Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, so Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen asked me one of my questions, and I was pretty sure you guys were going to say we're going to have more details on the 13th. So again, I think we finally have this straight, that we would be taking the pre-K out of our BDR, and this slide was done before further conversations had happened. Okay, so we would be focusing on the special ed. That would be one recommendation. On the second one, we're basically trying to eliminate the as practicable language, the loopholes there. So what would that look like on the actual wording? Or is that another thing that we have to, is that probably something we'd be looking at on August 13th? Because it's saying there, as far as regardless of the economic conditions, and a minimum funding level. So what would be the ask?
The ask would be to delete the words "as practicable," which are
Right.
used when they are creating the budget. The state is creating the budget to say, oh, we might want to make sure there is funding for other programs at the state level, and we don't want to harm them in support of education despite economic conditions.
Okay, and so then that would establish basically the statutory minimum funding level, is that what you're saying?
For the people-centered funding plan, correct?
Okay, all right, I think I have that straight. And I also agree with trustee, as far as East African, that we kind of have to keep our eye, though, on the other things that had come up and see if that's something. Also something too, and I had been talking to one of my colleagues about this also, is do we have a feeling, I know it's not on our list right now, it was on our original list, but do we have a kind of a ballpark of idea of how many mental health funding bills are floating out there? Because I'm getting questions about that, and so I had to tell them it's no longer on our list of 6. It was originally on our expanded list.
Kirsten Sear for the record. Thank you for mentioning that. We'll bring that to you on August 13th, more information on that.
Okay, I would appreciate that, because right now I'm just telling them, I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. So I had a question on just the combination again of the practical language. Are we combining what we were first discussing as the budget process updates? Is that what we're just like rewording that? Okay, just to make sure I'm on the same track.
Nick Saccone, for the record, those
Yeah.
are directly related to each other. They both have to do with the state budget process for the people-centered funding plan. So the recommendation would to just keep it simple and put them both in one bill.
Thank you. And and so are we still, so I'm trying to absorb what you're giving me plus this. So are we still trying to do like an omnibus kind of bill with that second BDR? Because I think we're all on the same page of supporting special education and forwarding that first one. I feel like we're all on the same page with that one. But for the second one, I feel like there's other things that could be combined. And you tell me your thought process of maybe even adding that standard base grading?
I think personally, having had conversations with the Legislative Council Bureau about some of these ideas and what could be considered single topic, our conversation generally revolved around state education funding, and I don't think that standards-based grading could directly tie into state education funding when we're talking about a single subject for a bill.
Got it. And have other BDRs, maybe you don't know, but maybe we know, in the past that CCSD has passed along, been a little bit omnibus about multiple combination topics?
Kirsten Sear for the record, and I have to give you all credit for this. I think you're talking about the most ambitious legislative agenda that I've seen since I've been following CCSD closely in 2011. So, I mean, the strategy has been, we understand that typically big dollar bills are pushed by leadership, right? And so the strategy has been, it's not a bad strategy, but the strategy has been, let's go for smaller bills that we think we can get through.
Yeah.
That's not what we're hearing from you, so we are trying to listen to you, and we're trying to figure out a way that we can do this strategically.
We're trying to go after big potatoes for sure. So, and anyone that's watched Spider-Man knows the reference for that one.
Nick Saccone, for the record, I would just say we're just keeping it to potatoes, but they're still big potatoes, and we're not adding meat to the stew.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. So I guess I would still be interested to have that combination in that second BDR to say if there's wording that we can change here or there that we can combine, then I would be for that.
Sorry, Kirsten Sear for the record. I just want to make sure we're clear, combining what?
So I really appreciate the practical language. I love that we combined we updated like the budgeting words. We're not using budgeting, we're using practical language. But I feel like we can also add in another for grading or even for the facilities. If there's something that we can even do to add into that, I feel like there might be some room to push that.
Kirsten Sear for the record, what we're going to run into is this one topic rule for bills. So we have to make sure that whatever we propose can get through LCB.
Okay,
And there is a rule that you can only have one topic.
got it. Okay.
So
we're kind of stuck.
And
Yeah.
we think we can combine the budget cycle language that we're talking about is not super exciting, but it would have a huge effect on the quality of life for our students and our educators. If we could rely on the counts that we have in the spring instead of disrupting so much in the fall, that would be huge for our children and for our educators. And so, and we do believe at this point that we could combine that with the as practicable, I can't say that word, it's really hard. That one, we think we could combine those two, so you would have both something that really improves the experience for our children and our educators and stabilizes our budget with the potential of extra funding for education.
Thank you for clarifying that, because that's kind of the part that I was stuck on. Maybe we change the word practical. I don't like that word, practicable.
We're just going to take it out.
I know. We need to change, we need to have the bill be called something else instead of that.
Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. So I know when we discussed this on June 11th, I think it was right after the primary election or before, I can't remember, it's a blur. But I know that there's some winners that came out that have possible BDRs that are open. So going down this list, we know special education, we've talked about we want this. Pre-K sounds like a lot of people are picking it up. Retain local control, you know, Nick, you mentioned that we're going to prepare having those conversations. So the fourth thing on the list is transportation funding for career experience and open enrollment. Is there any conversations happening with folks who have, you know, some BDRs left over that they can take some of the priority list?
Nick Ciccone, for the record, the intention from other advocates is to ask the governor to hopefully include it in his recommended budget, the funding for that.
Okay, and transportation for funding and career experiences and open enrollment. I think right now there was a lot of questions when we rolled out our $1,000, you know, possibility to get money, and people were, I don't think there's enough education, not on our end. I will say not on our end, we're doing a really good job, but there's a lot of confusion why these certain groups of students and not everyone, right? So how do we expand that? And that's why transportation for me was on my priority list. So there's a lot of people that need help with transportation because they're not able to do the school bus, or the RTC routes are not all the way in some county areas. So I hope next meeting we can have some ideas of who can pick up probably some transportation, if not the governor, if we don't have an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Henry, do you have anything that you'd like to add? She's still on?
I am still on. I don't have anything to add. Thank you all.
Thank you. Superintendent.
Thank you. Just to add to the questioning comment in regard to the open enrollment piece, I know that this is part of the item, but the process that we're following is what is exactly in law. It wasn't, you know, Kirsten Sear or superintendent or anyone else, that we are following the process that's in law. And so when you look at moving forward, transportation funding for career experiences and open enrollment, those questions that we've all been getting, that's where it would be addressed. The other piece, as practicable, I really want to emphasize those two words are a huge lift, and it's a massive change. And so if you decide to go, you know, in that route, everyone would be very, very happy, and we all would stand shoulder to shoulder to make those two words be removed.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. So when we look at, because we keep talking about how the SPED bill, it's a big topic. There's a lot of different things. Is there a vision for what this bill is going to look like when we talk about funding, when we talk about the content? Can you give us kind of an idea or rundown of what this, what the vision is for that bill, since it is such a robust one?
Nick Ciccone, for the record, some of our preliminary conversations have revolved around putting together the number that comes from general education, from the general fund budget that we utilize on special education funding, and making a direct ask of the legislature so that they can then base their special education funding in future years on that number. I think I described that well.
Interesting. Okay.
You did, and if I can add, please, and I look to the superintendent because she helped write the funding formula. But as it currently stands, the special education funding is not within the funding formula, correct? Save me, Superintendent.
Correct, and that, it always will stay outside of the funding formula because of IDEA. It cannot be part of the waterfall and all of those pieces. So yes, absolutely correct. A+. With that, though, over $100 million from our general fund goes to support our special education students, right? We are required by law to provide these services. And so if you think about that, if the legislature would set aside the funding, make the funding whole for all of special education, then that $100 million goes back to general education programming. And so that's one component of this. I mean, there are, specific ways to go about, the team has talked about, and you've had speakers here come to us about the supports within the special education funding, all of those pieces. So we can absolutely name, and prioritize where those funds would go. But that's really the concept. And that's not just the Clark County School District. That is school districts all across the nation, here in Nevada. And we would be very forward-thinking and moving in that direction.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. And then finally, number 6, the standards-based grading. Are you seeing any movement from that from Nevada Department of Ed? Like, are they interested in taking something like that on?
So I think, and this might be partially on me, but as we were kind of discussing or looking at this idea about standards-based grading, I, being new to education, kind of confused the term competency-based education with standards-based grading. And right now, there are already pilot programs in place that the Department of Education is working on for competency-based education, which is basically looking at if a student can prove that they are competent in a subject, then it's not time-based anymore. They don't have to go through 15 weeks of courses. They can just say, hey, I took the test, I'm good. Whereas with standards-based grading, that's looking more at the mastery of, let's say, literacy and then reading comprehension and kind of parsing those out. So I think at this point, the recommendation, as we are continuing to have that conversation with both with legislators and internally, would be to maybe work with the state to better understand where the state is in order to adopt a regulatory process for all districts when it comes to standards-based grading.
Yeah, I think since we have to narrow this down to 2, I think one of the things that would be helpful for us on the 13th is, like, for that one to determine, like, if we're going to your point, let's say we work with the state, so it's no longer a priority. If that was the case, I think there would be a little bit more information. I would want to see, like, timelines. Yeah, they're working on it. They have got a pilot program, but how long have they been working on this pilot program? Do they hope to have it finished at a targeted date? Is there, based on that data, are they going to implement at a certain time? Like, things like that, to know how realistic those conversations would turn into action. So that's just my thoughts. Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen, you have more?
I always have more. So I'm interested in the fact that each district gets 2. And so we have 17 districts in the state of Nevada. Oh, we're the only one because we're the,
Washoe gets
oh, they
one.
get 1.
Yes, CCSD has 2.
Oh, so we're working in collaboration with Washoe? Do we know what Washoe's doing?
Nick Ciccone, for the record, coincidentally, I believe they go to their board on August 12th, so I might be able to give you a little sneak preview on August 13th of what they had discussed.
Okay, that would be a follow-up I think would be helpful for us just to have an idea. The other thing that I think is helpful is in recalling in our last conversations, we were talking about SB 460, and there was going to be conversation about them going back and cleaning that up. So to the point of the request of some of the trustees, could we have a quick little overview of what that cleanup might be? Because it might touch upon some of the other categories that are listed here, and it would help us to eliminate some of that options, those options.
Absolutely. Kirsten Sear for the record. So the 460 is so massive, and it touches on so many things. And it was a combination of bills that was a little bit of sausage. I think just by nature of small potato. No, it was big potatoes. But and I think everybody would say that it needs some improvements, right? And so actually the superintendent has asked us to go through 460 line by line, which we are doing tomorrow. And several other days after that, I think it will take time. But so we're going to go through line by line, go through with all of our other department heads, who are impacted by different parts of the bill. We're going to come up with a list of our recommendations. We're going to cross-check that with, NAS this is one of the NAS priorities. We understand at least 2 legislators three. Nick found someone new since I talked to him last. At least 3 legislators are looking at cleanup bills. And so what we're going to do is make sure that we identify exactly what we'd like to see changed, find some coalition partners, and go to those 3 legislators and make sure it's all included. Did you want to add anything?
Perfectly said.
Oh, great.
Awesome. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. So that was my clarifying question, was that if we were adding, if SB 460 was going in to be added in the practicable part of that, if that was being combined, or if it was just the practicable word language that we're removing.
The recommendation from us is to just remove the as practicable. And I think when we come back to you on August 13th, we might have a little bit more recommendations when it comes to Senate Bill 460 potentially. And we absolutely can include Senate Bill 460 fixes on our legislative platform, which we will come back to you for in December to finalize.
Okay. But it wouldn't be part of the same bill? Okay.
No, we would
got it.
look to one of the 3
Yeah.
bill sponsors that are out there already.
Got it. And when would that review be done? I'm kind of interested to, I mean, we might even go like, oh, we'd rather take this change than that change.
Kirsten's here for the record. We'll give you an update on
Okay.
the August 13th meeting.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam President. I am just curious, President, what kind of motion are you looking for?
So we're looking for a motion to approve the recommendations from the district, which they've clarified, but if you need further clarification, we can ask again.
Kirsten's here for the record. I don't think this is I think this is a discussion item. So.
No, it says possible action.
Oh, it's possible action? Okay. Sorry,
So
my
then-
bad.
It's, yeah, it's,
Go ahead, President, I apologize.
well, it's possible action, right? So if nobody wants to make a motion, I guess we don't have to technically. But if there were to be a motion, it would likely be to approve the recommendation. Go ahead, Mahogany. Am I messing this up?
Yeah, so it is for possible action. What they're asking is to add these basically to next week, so there would need to be an action to add those, because they're new.
Kirsten's here for the record. I just want to make sure that we're clear that if we're going to do that, then we would like to change the first bullet, if possible.
Correct. You're wanting, so just to clarify, to help Trustee Zamora and myself too, because I want to make sure, if there were to be a motion, it would be to add to our final 6, we would add to add the as practicable language removed, I guess, from the state budget process updates. And then you're not doing the pre-K funding, and SPED is already on here, so would we need to?
We could use a motion to add a potential BDR that would both include updates to the state budget process and remove as practicable language.
Do we have to remove pre-K? Because we're going to remove, I don't think they're asking for removals right now. That's not what I heard. My understanding is we'll focus on removals on the 13th. My understanding is it's just, we need to add to this list because we voted on this list. So if we're going to add to the list, it sounds like based on the changes since they put this slide together, since special education funding is already on the final 6, I don't know that we need to add anything there, but we would want a motion, or the district is requesting a motion to add the removal of the as practicable language to number 5, it sounds like.
That's perfect.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just informing you, I didn't make the motion. So does anybody, is there going to be a motion on the floor? Does anybody want to make a motion? Oh, we do have to have public comment. Thank you. I even wrote it down. Do we have public comment on this, Lisa? Okay. No public comment? You guys are keeping me honest up here. Does anybody want to make a motion? I will make a motion. Okay, I will make a motion to add the removal of the as practicable language to our number 5 BDR priority. Do I have a second? Trustee Zamora.
Can I clarify? I would like to second, but number 5, you're saying, because we're removing the last two?
We're not removing anything. What I said was that we would, what I said, God, I wish I had a recorder. What I said is I was making a motion to add the removal of the as practicable language to the number 5 priority because it has to do with state budget process updates.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Okay. I think we're good. Let's go ahead and vote. Trustee Henry?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. That was fun. All right. Thank you, team. I know Ms. Sear is just going to stay up here. So before I get to, well, 2.04 is not an action item, so we can move forward here. This is a report on community engagement meetings. And before I turn it over to the district, I did want to read something from one of the sponsors of this awesome program. Trustee Johnson couldn't be here tonight, and so he wrote a letter to all of us, and I wanted to read that for him. Dear colleagues, I'm so sorry I'm unable to join you at tonight's work session. Having served as a lead on the design of our community meetings, I wanted to share some thoughts on our progress and the proposed next steps. You know what? This is discussion. So I will read this after you guys present. How about that?
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, my name is Kirsten Sear. I serve as the Chief Community Engagement Officer, and now I am joined by Executive Director Corey Klober-Dance and Director Kelsey Rodman. We will be presenting an update and proposed schedule for the 2026-2027 Trustee Community Engagement Meetings. This is an effort that is jointly supported by the Events and Special Projects Department within the Community Engagement Unit and the board office. It's an initiative that reflects our operational lessons learned from our inaugural 25-26 school year to ensure that we maximize community participation and manage district resources efficiently. It's been a long night already. I'll turn it over to Ms. Klober-Dance.
Great. Make sure I'm on. Yep. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, Corey Klober-Dance for the record. To ground our discussion, let's look quickly at why these meetings were established during the 2025-2026 school year. The trustee community engagement meetings were created to build authentic two-way communication between our Board of Trustees and the communities you serve. This effort directly supports our 2026-2031 strategic plan, the Destination District. By bringing families, students, staff, and partners into the conversation, we ensure our community helps shape CCSD priorities while strengthening public trust across the district.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Ebert, this is Kelsey Rodman for the record. Our overreaching goals remain unchanged to empower stakeholders, inform district planning, promote transparency, and strengthen community partnerships. However, to achieve those goals effectively, we must look at what the 25-26 data taught us. 1, hosting 2 meetings per month pulled significant bandwidth from the Events and Special Projects Department, which oversees a list of other major district events. Also, these meetings require staff from the board office, CCSD police, emergency management, family engagement, communications, TIS, and school leaders. 2, attendance trends. We saw attendance decrease over the course of the school year, which we believe was due to the frequency of the events. Attendance ranged from an average of 116 total participants for combined in-person virtual formats, down to 20 to 22 average participants for isolated in-person or virtual-only meetings. Additionally, marketing fatigue. Hosting meetings so close together made it challenging for the communications department and our principals, who are our strongest promoters, to effectively differentiate and market each event. Also, we heard confusion from the public when we were marketing several events at one time. Difficulty in scheduled meetings. Some meetings were scheduled with little time to plan and market the events, putting more stress on staff. Additionally, at least one meeting was rescheduled with very little notice after staff spent time promoting it. Scheduling meetings at the beginning of the school year would be incredibly helpful to our staff members who are already stretched thin and allow a better strategic planning to improve the overall engagement and experience of the events for all participants. Shifting our structure allows us to address these challenges directly.
In response to these findings, we recommend shifting to a 1 meeting per month cadence for the 2026-2027 school year, with the exception of 1 month. Here is how the refined format works. Each trustee would hold 1 dedicated meeting during the school year, with the option to invite fellow trustees to join them. Additionally, meetings would be scheduled in August so that all departments and trustees can plan in advance. Trustees could choose an in-person or a virtual format based on their personal preference. Virtual meetings would continue to be live streamed, recorded, and posted on the CCSD website the following day. We would continue our practice of recording in-person meetings and posting them online the next day as well. Last year, several trustees requested support with guest speakers to ensure proper setup and high-quality promotional materials and staff preparation. We would like to ask trustees to provide a 3-week advance notice for specific meeting topics you'd like to highlight and request for any CCSD department to identify student or staff guest speakers.
Corey Kloberdans again for the record. Our proposed schedule runs from August 2026 through April 2027, with no meetings scheduled during the busy end-of-year window in May, nor during summer in June or July. In August 2026, we will feature 2 meetings for District A and District B. September 2026 through January 2027 will move sequentially through Districts C, D, E, F, and G. The meetings February through April 2027 will feature appointed representatives, including Clark County in February, Henderson in March, and Las Vegas and North Las Vegas in April. For the 2027-2028 school year, the sequence would then shift, starting with District B in August and placing District A at the end in April. Within this proposal, trustees are welcome to select any date within their assigned month and are free to swap months if both trustees are in agreement.
To wrap up our next steps, we ask that trustees consider these proposed changes and confirm their preferred date, time, and format, in person or virtual, for their meeting with the board office so our team can begin to build out a full promotional campaign well in advance. Thank you for your leadership and dedication to authentic community engagement. We're happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Thank you. And Kelsey, thank you for hanging with us. We should have had this at the first part on the agenda. I feel for you. It's not easy work what you're doing over there. So, all right. Let me read this from Trustee Johnson. It's a little long, so you can get mad at him. He says, our community meetings were conceived about a year ago to foster two-way dialogue between trustees and constituents, aiming to build a shared vision for our district while ensuring transparency and accountability. After more than a year and nearly 24 meetings, we have successfully met several major milestones of our initial proposal. 1, to create a standardized framework for trustee district meetings. 2, hold monthly meetings. And then 3, provide consistent communication and outreach materials. The final phase of this project is to evaluate our performance and refine our approach. As educators, we know the importance of reflecting on our processes to ensure effective delivery in the upcoming school year. Trustee Johnson says he's had the opportunity to consult with the district on this proposal and appreciates the team's willingness to incorporate our feedback and continue seeking input from the full board. Trustee Johnson says that he fully supports the recommendations from our staff and encourages the board to continue offering suggestions that will make these meetings more inclusive and effective while remaining mindful of staff bandwidth. Then he goes on to mention what the staff just mentioned with their recommendations, moving 1 meeting per month, allowing trustees to invite other trustees to participate, and then giving trustees the flexibility to choose their preferred meeting format. He believes they'll improve our meetings, and he welcomes board support for these changes. So, and then he says, thank you for your dedication to building strong connections with our community and appreciates the understanding regarding his absence. So thank you for your patience on that. Appreciate Trustee Johnson's words as he was a big part of getting this going. And so I will now open it up to discussion among the team. Trustee Zamora.
I just feel like I always have my finger ready, and I'm sorry because I'm always first. Thank you for the presentation. I want to start with my first question. Kelsey, everything you were mentioning during the presentation, where can we see that? Is that posted anywhere or shared with anyone?
Kirsten, sir, for the record, do you mean the attendance numbers?
The data, yes, the data, kind of the reasonings.
Kirsten Stewart, for the record, I believe that was provided in the memo that we sent to the board.
The memo, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Which went to the board in July, but we will be happy to resend it to you.
No, thank you. That's me.
Okay.
I was looking at the presentation, so as you know, board docs, this is all we were presented through the website. The second question I have, did we think about, I understand going into a once-a-month meeting. I know the numbers. I saw them specifically in my district, and even when I combined meetings with other trustees, the turnout is very low. But as we're looking at once a month, instead of individual trustees, did we consider or even look at overlapping? So maybe the county, city, and then that district trustee, so then it's probably more people that can participate and then more outreach in that way?
Kelsey Hartman, for the record, that's actually something that we were exploring today and talking about and figuring out ways that we can maximize that engagement across multiple channels.
And I ask because I was looking at this calendar. I'm in October. October, we have all the fall festivals. Like, there is so much happening in our individual schools already. I will be forgotten. And even if I talk to other trustees to switch, they're all probably going to say no, right? Because it's just bad timing. But I think if we look into combining and overlapping districts and municipalities, we will be able to do multiple ones in that way. So I can do something with North Las Vegas. I can do something with Clark County, and then, you know, and so on. So I think maybe that's something to explore a little bit more, so then we're just not tied to one meeting in a year, because that is a little bit difficult.
Yeah, Kirsten Stewart, for the record,
I was going
Oh,
to
I'm
jump
sorry.
in. Yeah, thank you, Superintendent Ebert. So on page 4, I believe that's the second bullet item that we put. So if you want to, we needed to nail down, like, not be Jell-O, right? Nail down exactly the one month that you can own. If you want to switch it, you're more than welcome to switch it. But I hear you saying maybe you can't find out of the 10 someone that would offer. But these are your meetings, and we do not want to be charged with trying to decide which of you will pair with whom. So truly, our staff time has been sent, here's the day for you to lead your session. If you want to, you know, combine, we're more than happy to do that. We are more than happy to take your, you know, Henderson, DG together all at once, but we don't want to be charged with us trying to do that for you.
I hear what you're saying. I was just trying to find a compromise, so we're not tied to once-a-month schedule with your team, right? Because it is time-consuming on your team. I hear the engagement. Kelsey, shout out to you, because it has been probably a year for you, right? And they're late meetings. I also understand that. So that's why I was thinking, if we combine the schedules, if you help us, maybe just helping provide something. But what I'm hearing is you're suggesting I go to North Las Vegas and try to hop on their meeting, like us coordinating ourselves in that way? Yeah.
Yes, you determining as
Okay.
trustees who you would like to pair with, you making that determination, because we don't want to play, I'm not going to play intermediary. Like, you get to determine who wants to be with who, and then we'll go ahead and schedule it for you.
Got it. Okay.
May I add something, Superintendent? I think Yeah, that's kind of the model that you all followed last year, because we didn't combine trustees last year. You all decided it together. I would say also, though, for example, we didn't include any meetings in May because of graduation, right? I mean, you all got 2 or 3 events every day in May anyway. If you would like to come to us and say, let's do 2 events in September and none in October, I think we could be flexible on that sort of thing. Again, our priority is I think 2 a month, every month is too much. I think we're trying to limit that, both, for staff capacity, but also just for the community was having they're getting a little tired of it, I think, and for our principals too. I mean, Trustee Johnson is amazing and everybody invited him to their meetings. But I was emailing those Las Vegas principals up to twice a month and saying, hey, help me promote this. And they were like, which one? We just promoted one. It was getting very confusing. So I think we'd be willing to work with you on potentially, for example, doing 2 in September and none in October. I think that's fine if you all decide how you want it to overlap and we're overall narrowing down the number of meetings. Does that make sense? Okay.
Trustee Esparza-Stoffergen.
First, I do want to thank the team because it was very much a lift. I'm using that word tonight. That, it was very important for us to give back to the community because they asked for it, and it hasn't been done. So it was an additional part of your day, extension of your day. So I just want to kind of say that I'm speaking for myself, but everybody else, because you all put in the time. Thank you very much. Yeah. So having said that, I appreciate, because organically, I think you're right. I had 4 meetings. One trustee invited me to an in-person. I had my own in-person. I had student guests. Awesome. They were amazing, better than me, answered lots of questions. And then I had 2 virtual that I was invited to participate in as well. And I think that's important because some of us, like the calendar, I wouldn't see anybody until March. So that's the piece where agreed that I think we can work internally with each other to try to break that up and not have as many. But I do want to go back to the data report that was shared with us. You gave us whole numbers. And what I was really curious about is do we have the actual accountability of how many parents participated, how many students participated, how many staff members participated? I don't think we went to that minutia of participation, even though people had to identify themselves in order to get the link to participate. And I think that's another piece of data in the future going forward. We need to collect that so that we can start really seeing who's showing up. And I'm going to say this, that there were a lot of times that maybe people dropped off because I think 2 things might have happened. One, their question got answered and they were done. The other part that was a glip and kind of a glitch, people said they couldn't get on, or there was some off and on kind of maybe connectivity. And who knows, it could be something that was out of their control. So those are factors that I don't know we can really pinpoint why that happened. But I just think having a little bit more of who actually showed up would be helpful for us to collect in the future.
Thank you, Trustee Kelsey Rodman, for the record. To kind of touch on both of your points, you are correct. I don't think that the data went that far into the minutia to capture the different groups. That is something that we can work with the board office on. They do own the RCP in that form in that way, and they track the participants, but that's definitely something we can incorporate with them. And then additionally, talking about some of the connectivity and drop-off, that's another reason why we are really recommending this virtual and in-person preference, because where we saw that was at the beginning of the year when we were trying to do this dual in-person, and we had a really hard time with microphones carrying and you couldn't hear people and the connectivity was a lot more spotty. Now when we're doing virtual meetings, we've hosted them all here with TIS involved. There's a lot more stability, and so it very much plays to be more stable, because to your point, that was something we saw in the first half of the year that we had to reevaluate. So.
Great, thank you. Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. And again, like my colleagues, I want to thank you guys so much. I mean, the help that you gave us with everything, with promoting it, having everything set up, and the sign-in sheets and the follow-up was amazing. Something that we haven't really talked about so far on this item is trustee accountability and trustee responsibility. So I was the only trustee, I don't know why, but I was the only one that was assigned only 2 meetings instead of 3. So I made the most of them. But I asked, if you'll remember, I asked for very little help on that. I got I got my student speakers, I got my own, shall we say, network going, not just through the schools, but through, personal contacts, email blasts, reposting to everybody. Said, okay, we'll show up. But I believe that my meeting, my in-person meeting, I didn't do virtual, my in-person meeting at Thurman White and my in-person meeting at Chaparral, we ran out of seats, if you guys will remember. They were full. I did a lot of work on that, and I think that you are correct. You need to have some leeway if trustees are going to say, we need some student speakers, or we need this on mental health, we need this. We need to do that. We need to take the responsibility for that because you guys have so many other things admirably that you're doing such a fantastic job on. So I would agree with my colleagues that 1 meeting a month is not enough. I had the opportunity to speak to some of our former trustees just the other day, and they were talking about what is going on with you guys. We used to do our own meetings, and, they had their own names to them. I'm sure you guys will remember which trustees I'm talking about. And they had them at libraries, they had them here, there, everywhere. We can't put that much responsibility on you guys. Here you're giving us this schedule, and I'm feeling sorry for you already that, that we have to figure that out. Because when we first proposed this, it was like we're bringing this back. And then the principals also, if I understood correctly, and I would ask the superintendent this and also Kirsten, I think they had discretion on whether they wanted to send them out, in Parent Link or the parent newsletter, the family newsletter. And so I myself basically just took it upon myself to go ahead and get it out to the people in my district. If they wanted to send it to somebody else, then they could. So I think that here, again, just as we were talking about, we can't put the load on you. We just can't. We need to make these arrangements. I myself am not happy to wait until January. I will go ahead and just say this out loud. 3 of us incumbents are involved in re-election campaigns right now. So who knows? Are we going to be here or not? I'll just say that. So to be looking at not having a meeting until January, to not be, and I believe Trustee Bustamante Adams, I'm sorry, does not have a meeting until December. I think Brenda has one in October. And so there has to be a way that we can come to a compromise here, that we can get together with our colleagues. And if people are happy with just doing the 1 meeting, then so be it. It's kind of like that, but go let them. But if we want to be more transparent and accountable to our community, and we want to be out there and they're telling us, my community itself in the district, they practically designed my community meeting for me. I didn't even have to do it. So I think that we can come to some kind of a reasonable compromise, because we can't say that we're being transparent and that we're communicating with the community if they're only going to be able to engage with us once a month. I don't see that. So, but again, I want to make sure that I thank you for everything you guys did for us, because you were amazing. So that's my take on this.
So Trustee Cavazos, just so that for clarity's sake, because I heard a couple of things. Are you saying, you said that you think that we should have more than 1 meeting a month, but then you said that the onus should be on us.
Right.
So are you saying that this works so long as you have the opportunity to create your own on the side? Is that what you're saying?
Actually, that's not what I meant, but that's a good idea. We could do that, but that would be at our own expense and going ahead and, I've done that in the past as far as renting a library space or whatever. I like what we were talking about with Trustee Zamora as far as combining, but again, it has to be doable, it has to be reasonable. You guys have a lot of things in your department that you are doing. So I think that this is something where It can't be, and I don't mean this in a bad way, it can't be dictated to us. This is like a suggestion. This is a structure that you're presenting to us. But the community is looking at us and saying, why aren't you guys doing this? So if we need help, with this, then we need help. But we can still do, as you said, President, we can still do the one meeting a month. But I think that there has to be a way, as Trustee Zamora was saying, that we combine with the other trustees, and it still works for you guys, that we're not overburdening you.
So to be fair, I think, and I'll let you, because again, I'm just trying to keep the discussion going and organized, and also understand what's being said. So I think that the purpose of some of the things that have been stated, and even from reading Trustee Johnson's recommendation, it sounds like because this is become, I don't want to say a hardship, that's not the word, but because it has become an additional workload on this team, I think that was the reason for the schedule, because if they have a schedule, they can do all of their other work around this. But if it's just free-nilly and, somebody reaches out and say, you know what, I think I want to have my meeting next month, I feel like that creates I mean, you keep saying it, right? It's a lot on them. So to do that, it sounds like that would be a lot on them. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm hearing. So I'm trying to understand when you're saying one thing, but I'm still hearing something else. So I'm trying to understand. It sounds like you don't want the schedule.
I'm saying that we can't be limited to that schedule.
Okay.
Also, if I can add something very respectfully to Ms. Sear, I don't think it was me. I think it was one of the other trustees that asked about capacity when we first started out with this. And I think that some of these bugs, so to speak, can be worked out. I remember what you said about, as far as like some of the school sites, they didn't have the same capacity. And so we had problems. And then the mic, people were dropping off because they couldn't hear us talking. They couldn't hear the presenters talking. And that wasn't your fault. So what I'm saying here to clarify for the president and the rest of the board is that I see what you're saying, and that maybe we could say, okay, Trustee Cavazos will have a meeting in March. But if, say, I want to say, I see Trustee Zamora looking at me already, don't do it. If I want to say to Trustee Zamora, may I have your October slot, and I will somehow make that work. I'm just saying that we can work that out among ourselves, without putting the onus on you.
Kirsten Sear, for the record, that's currently in the proposal.
Right. The point I'm trying to make is I don't think that once a month is going to be okay for all trustees. It might be okay for some trustees. So if they want to go ahead and go along with that, we can accept that and just say additional meetings will be worked out internally.
I want to be clear that we're all on the same page. Additional meetings for once a month. We're not going to have 3 additional meetings in 1 month. It's
No.
with the.
No, not additional. Collaboratively or
Okay.
being invited
Okay,
to,
perfect.
et
Thank you
cetera.
for the clarity.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Brown.
Thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, I want to apologize because I was supposed to have an event yesterday, but I had an unforeseen incident. I had a medical thing that I thought I'd be able to get it cleared up by yesterday. It didn't happen, so my sincere apologies for that, having that happen. So if you're referring to anybody in particular, as we say in Spanish, me dieron la pedrada, so I should go ahead and apologize for that if you're referring to me. And if you weren't, I'm still going to apologize anyhow. Yeah, well, I do like the Trustee Cavazos' idea. I guess what she's speaking to, of course, is a level of flexibility for us to combine these things. For instance, by April, things are pretty well parsed out, and I think our, hey, if we're talking about seniors, I remember by the end of March, or April, seniors are checked out. A lot of parents, they're checked out too, because they're about done, transporting their kids to school, right? It's kind of a late, unless there's something that's really like important happening at that time of the year, and we can never tell. Look, I spent 13 years, and I found out really early that it was very difficult on staff to have, these town halls, because not a whole lot of people show up, and it's difficult, and here I was bringing the heads of different departments, a representative from police, a representative from fire. The big one was usually from our code enforcement, and anyhow, it was difficult on our staff, so I totally get that part. But it really is important to have that community connection. Now, you'll have to bear with me. At Rancho High School, in the late 1990s, early 2000s, right? We were always one of the largest high schools, well over 3,000 students, right? But we had an enormous ELL department, easily 700 students a year, easily. Okay, we had almost like our own mini department where I was teaching social studies, and we had someone else doing social studies, and our own math teacher, and so on and so forth. And what we found out is there were actually 2 or 3 years where the ELL department had almost like its own very well attended open house. And the way we did that was we actually had an assignment where we actually had our ESL students make an invitation that they were being graded on, and those are sent home to the parents, and the parents had to freaking sign those and bring them back for the grade, right? And we would actually be able to conduct almost like our own open house. I mean, when you have 300 parents at a school like Rancho High School, we're talking, that's a major success. And they had questions for every darn thing, They were confused because they didn't understand why their students didn't have to take uniforms. They didn't understand, our attendance policy. There was a lot of things they didn't understand. I think the one thing, what I'm going to add, I actually have a question here. So the question is, because we haven't really done this through our students. In the Latino population, you can go ahead and do your research. When students, when Latino parents vote here in November, many of them are going to vote based upon what their kids tell them to do.
I'm sorry, can I have a point of order? Where does this land on community engagement meetings?
Yeah, well, if you give me a chance to actually, I did say I was going to have a story, so here's where I'm getting to with the story before you point of order me. The point I'm getting to is, if you really want to get people, we have a huge Latino population, okay? If you really want to get, people to show up, we have to actually change our messaging to reach the Latino population. And if you're going to do it, you're going to have to go through the actual students, particularly to the high schools. I can't, my experience relates only to secondary high school, right? Not to elementary, right? But if you really want to get them in, I think we should also have the flexibility of making these student-centered meetings that we actually involve the parents along with as their invited guests as well. And I haven't heard that as much, right? But again, unless you grew up with this, right, you may or may not know what I'm talking about. But it's again, in the Latino population, I'm kind of hoping that we will be given the flexibility not just to combine if we have a couple of trustees. And again, my jurisdiction there kind of like overlaps with with, of course, Trustee Dominguez, with Trustee Henry, and with Trustee Zamora, right? So, if we wanted to end, I would also argue that if we do this properly, many of the trustees here have a really good relationship with individual schools, right? So if we know that they have a special event coming up, in North Las Vegas, Mojave High School has been doing this culture night that's just been growing every year. And if we could somehow combine to have, hey, meet the trustees and actually have some outreach, we'd have more than just maybe a dozen parents show up. We might have several dozen. And I think the trustees, and again, we have a strict we have a strict board policy now But I think if we're given a little bit of leeway to allow these trustees to actually exploit the relationship, yeah, I'll say exploit the relationship that they've built with individual, school leaders, right? We might actually have more people show up, And again, all you have to do is look at the number of at Jim Bridger, whenever we, as a student, I recall that whenever we had anything associated with our band, we packed the house. But by the time you got to high school, right, that level of engagement with the parents just wasn't there, And so we'd have a band concert at Rancho High School, and it was just a pittance compared to the level of parental engagement at the middle school. So again, I guess the question is, do you think it'd be possible to allow the trustees to have the ability to involve students and/or to engage and maybe coordinate with individual school sites to drive attendance?
That's what I did with Chaparral, was packed the students ran the thing.
Christian Sear, for the record, I don't know if I can comment on what trustees can and can't do, but I would say that I think the intent of what you're saying is very aligned with what we're proposing tonight, which is that if we have fewer meetings that we plan out further in advance, then we all have more opportunities to market them in a more meaningful way and better reach our community. So I think we're aligned, actually.
Sort of, yes. But again, I have 3 trustees that I overlap jurisdiction with, right? So again, if we're waiting for Barone to do something all the way till April, we're gonna miss the boat. But if there's something, if there's again, Mojave High School again does their culture night, if I remember correctly, sometime like in February, right? And if I would have the opportunity to combine and do things with Trustee Henry, right? We might actually have a little gem there to grow, That just it's an idea.
Yeah, so I think that's in the proposal, that you have the flexibility to work with one another and to go to each other's meetings. I think that's what's in there. Before I turn it over to Trustee Esparza-Stafford, Trustee Henry, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you so much. This was very robust discussion. And it's so much, right? We have this proposal, but that doesn't mean that we can't still continue to engage our community outside of this structured, what's being presented. Is that correct?
That's right, Trustee Henry.
Thank you so much. I think that, especially with just even attending all of the back to school fairs as of late and having, meetings with different community groups who do reach out. That's what community engagement is. And, yes, we can do this. It looks like we have one meeting per month, and we'll coordinate with one another to see how we can attend multiple if time allows. But outside of this, we can still meet with our community members. And also even just some feedback, because we don't want so much to be on our staff members. I do like the suggestion, or when Trustee Cavazos mentioned that she, has rented space at a library, or there are other community spaces that we can utilize. I feel that there is more engagement when you do meet people where they are, opposed to trying to get everyone to come to a school after hours. So that's one option. I still feel that there are still ways that we can continue to engage our community members. And yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Henry. And now we'll move back through the rounds. Trustee Esparza-Stafford.
So I have some thoughts, but before I do that, I have a question. You know, the whole thing that I'm trying to capture is, are we meeting to meet the needs of the community, and how do we know we're making impact? And one of the things that I felt was really impactful was that we were able to be in the community in the time that things were happening and changing within the district. So a lot of that messaging, of course, talking points were given, and we were able to do Q&As. It was very, I know it's a lot, but we were also able to address and meet the needs in the time that it was happening. And misinformation that often happens. So there was a lot of collection of the trends that were talked about. Remember, because if people had to participate, whether virtually or in person, they had to submit those questions ahead of time. Okay, so I'm volunteering in my own self, not giving you guys anything more to do. We have a committee that we originally started with. Trustee Johnson, you snooze, you lose. He's not here. So we're going to give him some homework. And he's the lead. It was myself, Trustee Johnson, Trustee Dominguez, and Trustee Zamora. So I think we should be tasked for accountability to look, if you can give us all of that trend data of all those topics. I really want to have a conversation about what was that impact, like what people said and what did we do as trustees to actually make a difference, right? So again, I'm just asking, maybe it's to the superintendent because I'm not their supervisors. Could we please have that so the committee could work on grabbing it and really seeing what those topics were? I think that's going to be helpful, number one. And then secondly, maybe the committee can also help to come up with a different calendar that would accommodate everyone. Because I agree with Trustee Barone, like April and even March. March is like testing month. So maybe we cut things off. I don't know, I'm not speaking for anybody, but we'll see. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I think we need input from all of us to say what can be the best solution, because we think that once a month is not gonna be enough. And then we'd have to talk to each other to see who can we join and what does that look like. So I'm gonna task the committee of us for potentially to get to work. So.
Thank you for that. Superintendent, did you want to respond now or hold?
What I understood, Trustee Esparza-Strophigan asking for data that we already have. So yeah, that's not a problem. I guess, since I do have the mic, I'm going to reiterate the capacity of the staff is an issue. It became there were projects that we were working on for student achievement that, you know, there's a lot of moving parts. I mean, we had the strategic plan and other things going on as well, but we'll have the legislative session coming up. So what we want to do is to be able to schedule, you know, and really, you know, if you all wanted to meet every single month, that's fine. But it is the, you know, school police, finding the location, it is, and I guess I really want to say, this schedule does not preclude you, as Trustee Henry was saying, from meeting with your constituents, you know, where they're at in the different venues and breakfasts and events that they all have. So I guess I feel like part of that is being conflated. Like, no, you know, these are the only times you can meet with. No, that's not what we're saying in any way, shape, or form. What we're saying is the structured, large media events where we have all of the staff. This is the capacity that we have to support those larger engagements.
Thank you for that. Trustee Dominguez. Oh, no, Trustee Zamora.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Okay, so as I'm looking at this calendar, I am thankful that we're open to, you know, collaborating everyone together. So my question is about locations. How do we see that being planned out? And I ask for the reasoning. If we start combining, I'm looking February Clark County representative. That's basically all of us on the districts, right? But if it's February meeting will be all the way on the other side from my district, not even nearby, that doesn't make sense for me to participate in. So how soon do you think we can get kind of locations for the meetings coming up to see if it makes sense for some of us to be combining?
Thank you, Trustee Zamora. Kelsey Rodman for the record. A couple of things. One, and this is how it operated last year as well, trustees have the ability to select their location. So that's not something that we determined. Trustees work directly with the board office. The board office staff actually confirm the locations. So that is something that you would have ownership of, just as we're talking about some of these other pieces, as long as you communicate that to the board office with timely advance that we can get our principals to be able to support having it there. That would be something you can control over. We wouldn't select that for you. And then additionally, obviously, we know virtual is an option as well, which would allow our multiple trustees from several different jurisdictions and districts to be able to participate and reach everyone.
Perfect. So I'm thinking maybe the committee can take that on of making sure we can plan out for the 6 months ahead, because I think it would be great for us just to have a master schedule on our website. Hey, these are the meetings for the next 6 months. These are the locations, but the committee will be responsible of knowing the location and if it's going to be in person or virtual. But it seems like the trustee assigned to that month basically will be the lead of that. Okay, so I like that idea. I'm giving the committee more homework. I apologize. The other thing I wanted to say is I really wanted to thank our principals and the schools that did post it, who sent links. I found it hilarious getting my own flyer as a parent. So I'm thankful, and I know our schools were also posting it on the website. And I think it's very important because some schools even did it as a pop-up of like, you go on the website and it just popped up, community meeting coming up. But imagine that just with a larger master schedule, I think would be very, very helpful. So then we can say, we have a meeting in August. It's these trustees and these are everyone who's participating. But, Trustee Barone, he's having one in November and so, because we'll have that list going. So hopefully we can really get it together as a committee. I'm looking at my committee members. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you to the team. I know you've been getting a lot of things, but we really do appreciate the hard work you guys do to put these meetings together, to email us, to email the staff, to get everybody put together. So we really appreciate that. And I appreciate being part of this committee because we've kind of evolved. So kind of from a point to where we desperately needed this to now let's have a more consistent routine. And I want to make sure, to say that, I'm going to say the hard part is these meetings were not meant to self-advertise. These meetings were not meant to be politically advantageous. And so these meetings were for the community. These meetings were for the community to be able to reach out, to have us in person, to have us there virtually, and to ask questions. Whether it was even sometimes I got a lot of county questions too because people don't understand like the connection. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure I said that. But to where we are, so I know I look at other agencies in the area and they do like, for example, Las Vegas Metro does first Tuesdays. How would it affect your team to designate a day to say second Tuesday, or just as an example, how would that affect the team on that?
Kirsten's here for the record. I think these are your meetings. And so I think we've been pretty clear that our priorities are to limit the number of meetings for a variety of reasons and to have an advanced schedule, which I think will benefit everybody. So I think those are our two main priorities. And I love that you're talking about owning it from there.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I love that we have the schedule. I'll say, Trustee Zamora, I would love to trade with you in August. So it's like all the months are very busy. So, October looks fabulous to me. But, all of the months are super busy. So I think, if we're trying to, I feel like if we train the public to say, like, kind of like Metro, like first Tuesdays, look at your command center, I think that would be kind of a benefit to us if we kind of trained everybody to say like second Wednesday or whatever day we wanted. I think it would help because right now we're kind of doing it based on our schedule and it's kind of all over the place. And it's all over the place for staff too. So I kind of feel like that would provide a little bit more consistency for us, the staff, and the community. And so just food for thought on that. That's kind of what I think. I really like that we're doing once a month. And I know we're kind of collaborating this month, but yeah, I think that's the best thing we can do. And I think that would actually have more turnout to have that engagement. I know I'm engaging with the community all the time, so I'm going to all the football games, every event a principal invites me to, I'm there. So if they're listening, please invite me, I will be there. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Bustamante Adams, sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. So I think that we're getting somewhere. What I heard from the superintendent and from my fellow colleagues is that we are going to take better ownership. We want to take ownership. And it's going to be at the committee level that was created last year. And Trustee Esparza-Strophigan named those 4 members. And that what you want from us is advance notice and limited number, so that we do not put more weight on your shoulders to try to coordinate those meetings. My question is, if the committee is going to take on this advanced role in the evolution, my question to you is, what is the timeline that they need to get back to you so that you can do your part?
Well, Kirsten Sear, for the record, that is the question that was going through my mind as we were having this conversation, because we very much want you all to take this. It's wonderful that you're taking this ownership, and it takes about 3 weeks to adequately plan and market and get all, school police on board, get the translators on board, design the graphics, get them translated, all of that. So I would say we would need probably 3 weeks to plan a really healthy, robust meeting, which we're already within that time limit. But again, it's up to you. If you want to adjust that calendar, I think we're very open to that.
So this is what I'm hearing, is that this is August. By the end of September, you need to know what our plan is so that you can do your part. That's what I'm hearing. Okay.
I see
What
nodding
about,
heads.
what about the August meeting that's planned? There's 2 August meetings that are planned.
I think, yes, is that we, as the committee needs to do their homework, and we would have to shift. But that's what I'm hearing, that we would not have meetings in August because the committee would come up with recommendations and to be more strategic in our application.
So
That's what I'm
I
hearing.
heard something different. So what I heard was that we were going to make sure that the team was doing it once a month, and that the committee was going to make sure that the information that they need for that once a month meeting would be given to them in enough time, 3 weeks. So I know that that's not the case for August. But but if you skip it, now we're going to have more meetings in a month, which is what we're trying to get away from. So, for me personally, I don't, because I'm August, just schedule it and let's go, easy. But that's just me. So I don't know. I saw superintendent had jumped on for a second. Did you have anything? No? So what are you asking?
I was just asking, can we just continue as is? Because I feel like A and B are probably already on the talks of location and everything for the August meeting. So just continue in that, but then the committee working for September, October, moving forward.
I think that's fine. Just keep it moving. I don't think we need to move August and is that fair?
Keep it to September too.
Yeah, so if you guys are working on that for September, and then it continues on from there, September, October, and then at least then we have the board has a system, moving forward, so that next year there is preparation for the August meetings. If that makes sense.
Madam
Trustee
President.
Esparza-Strophigan.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying because the calendar's been created. School starts on Monday. If you need 3 weeks, that pushes the 2 August meetings to the end of the month, which is really tight. people are having open houses this month as well. I just want to throw that in as a variable. So I'm saying if trustees are adamant about having an August meeting, we will accommodate, I think, as a committee. But I also think we need a little flexibility, President, because of the nature of how schools are operating right now this month, the first week of school, opening of orientation, open house meetings, everything's happening. It's, I know every month is busy, but it's a burden also on the school because it's their first month. So we will accommodate, I think, as a committee, whatever trustees want. But I just would ask for a little bit of flexibility for our schools because of the demand on their schedule as well as how they operate.
So I would just say that as far as the schools go, I am assuming that you guys have already started those plans with those schools because you put it in as August.
So Kirsten Sear, for the record, we were ready to do a tighter turnaround on August because we knew this conversation was happening tonight. We didn't
Okay.
want to start making major plans until we had this conversation tonight.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, I agree. Trustee Henry made a very good point when she said, having them once a month, this proposal is great, want to make it less on the staff, and if we want to do more outside of that, the onus is on us. And now we even have the committee saying, hey, we're gonna help out too. Love all of this. My concern is that with August, if we start switching stuff around, what that means is we're gonna find a month or two where you have multiple meetings, which really negates what we're trying to do here. So I'm District A. So I'm not gonna speak for District B. District B, sorry. I do that all the time. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but as far as I go, I don't mind making a fast turnaround to stay on schedule so that the committee can focus on September. They don't have to worry about August and keep it moving. That way, they have time to start working on the September and October, November, and keep that moving. I don't mind being that first one so that it's not a strain on you guys and it's not a strain on them. I don't mind that. I can't speak for District B, but these are conversations that, in my opinion, we could probably have offline. But I love the progress here. This is wonderful. Trustee Barone.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. These being, I think again, as one of the other trustees already, we've gone on different points here several times. I think the onus is actually on the adults here on the board, that's all 11 of us, to make sure that if we are going to be combining and working out together, that we keep things in mind. It's a huge district. It'd be one thing like for me to be, if I get invited, for instance, by two trustees, say Henry and Zamora, and it's kind of like in the same part of town. But if it's on opposite ends of the valley, with kind of like, some things are kind of universal, but not so much, because again, some of the concerns in Henderson, that would be, of course, Trustee Cavazos and Trustee Stofferkin's kind of like their lane may not be as applicable on the north side of the valley, right? So I think it's very incumbent upon the trustees to keep these things in mind. We know, of course, there are pressure on staff, but also again, if we know that there's a public meeting that we're planning, say, in Henderson, then perhaps, we let that parse out, and then, keep that in mind, and try not to schedule, anything that's going to be so close. And again, that's something that it would be something that when teachers work together on a campus, they're pretty good at cooperating and making sure they don't step on each other's toes. When they're having testing going on, hey, in social studies, if we knew that there has something really important going on in English, we'd make sure that we wouldn't schedule anything that would be time-consuming and would try to tread into what English was doing. I think we could kind of do that here as well, you know, but it'd be very, more than anything else, incumbent upon the trustees to cooperate, which of course, you know, that'd be a fantastic precedent. That'd be, or maybe not precedent, that's too hard, but it'd definitely be a nice demonstration for the students, you know, in the district. Again, you know, I think we can handle that thing as adults. I think we can learn how to play together in the same sandbox.
Thank you. Trustee Dominguez.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to go on the record to say I would be okay with just moving forward with August, having my district be going through. And I'm even proposing September to be District C. I think that's Trustee Henry. So that way it kind of gives the committee enough time for bring it back to the board. So I think that's. We're not going to. Oh, not bring. Okay, so I think that would give enough time to figure it out by then. So I think we should keep moving that way, and then, yeah. I'm ready for.
All right. Well, it's not an action item, so
Okay.
we're just in a good place. Love it. Okay, nobody else is in the queue. Trustee Henry, you have anything else? Shion?
I am here. I don't have anything else. This has been great discussion.
Thank you, Trustee Henry, and thank you, team. That concludes 2.04. Before I open 3.01, do we have any other public comment cards that need to be turned in? Anybody? Anybody want to speak? Okay, I am no longer accepting public comment cards. We have Miss Bethany Lamou, I'm sorry. Thank you for your patience tonight. Right here. And then just state your name for the record. Thank you so much.
So it's Bethany Lamove. Good evening, Madam President, Superintendent, and trustees. First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for putting together a group to really tackle school safety. A couple of you I'm very familiar with. We've spoken face to face. Today, I'm not here in that role that I have spoken to you in before. Today, I'm here as a concerned parent whose child rides a school bus to school. Last year, I pulled my child off the school bus because of how terrifying it is knowing that cars where we live fly past the school bus. I was ecstatic to hear you guys were putting stop arm cameras on the buses. Then all of a sudden they got pulled. It's terrifying to put my child on a school bus. I'm gonna be honest, it's one of the biggest reasons my other three don't go to the school district. I commend you guys for looking at school safety within the schools finally, but outside of the schools, I live 5 miles from a school. With the change of start times, I can't take him to school. So now I have to have him walk to a school bus, hopefully, and pray to God, get on that school bus safely and get to Arborview High School every day. Arborview High School, where a student was killed 2 years ago in his freshman year. I don't want to have to go through that again. That was the most terrifying thing in my life, knowing that a student at our school was killed and not knowing if it was my child or not. I beg you guys to reconsider putting these on the school buses. I live in the far northwest. I know there's a stop on Durango across the street from the Centennial Hills Hospital. It's an elementary school. Durango is a busy street. I can't tell you how many times I've seen little tiny kindergartners almost get hit trying to cross that street right there. When a school bus is stopped, cars don't care. Please, please, let this happen. I know you guys are doing your due diligence, but please put this on. I graduated out of this school district 21 years ago, this past May. I rode the school bus. 21 years ago, this should have happened. Why is it taking so long to do this when this program is paid for? So I beg you guys, no more tragedies, especially at the expense of something that is free. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you. Seeing that is our only public comment for the evening, I will close 3.01 and open 4.01, upcoming meeting of the Board of Trustees, which is Thursday, August 13th, 2026. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Trustee Cavazos.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Can I get a second? Trustee Dominguez.
I second.
Thank you. Let's vote. Trustee Henry? Thank you. Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you.